the maternal father of the Pokémon world. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 626, Sister Zylan's Invitation. Eminem was stunned when he heard this. The beauty champion next door asked me to accompany you by name. What is your experience? I came earlier this time because I discovered some novel legends about our ancestors among the tribes in the Cheyenne Mountains, so I wanted to go to the burnt tower again. Is that okay? Zylan said politely to Amu. After smiling coquettishly, he mentioned the matter to Adu first. Of course. Adu nodded. Although the burnt tower is a scenic spot, the interior is not open to the public. However, as Zylan is an expert in mythology and archaeology, the Quartz Alliance will not refuse her any application. And when Zylan said this, Eminem immediately understood the reason. The eternal flame he carried was the power of the Phoenix King mixed with the power of Xerneas and transformed into it. Before, Eminem had also thought about whether his eternal flame would have any additional effects in the Scorched Tower. After all, in the legend, the Scorched Tower was once the habitat of the Phoenix King, and it is also said to be the habitat of Leixi. Even the three holy beasts were born here with the help of the Phoenix King. Then, let's discuss official matters at the four-party talks, lest anyone say that we are secretly colluding. I also have to deal with Yuanzu's matter, Adu said, and looked at Eminem, and then said, Eminem, right? ? I also know Granny Leixi. Then I'll ask you to accompany Miss Zylan on a trip. Huh. Oh, okay. Anyway, I want to go to the burnt tower these 2 days. Eminem agreed. Adu nodded to him and Zylan, then turned and left. Eminem estimates that Yumi will also receive a reprimand. Adu was the Pokémon investigator before, that is, the headquarters of Junsha. It is not the headquarters of a certain alliance, but the headquarters of the Junsha family. Special investigator. Even when Adu was not a champion, he was very familiar with Junsha systems in various places, although the Pokémon investigator theoretically cannot command the Junshas of other alliances. After all, they all belong to the Junsha system. Now that Watari is going to be the champion of Johto, he has theoretically resigned as the Pokémon investigator. However, it is foreseeable that, contrary to Sakaki of Kanto, after Watari becomes the champion, his relationship with Junsha of the Alliance will be very close. Of course, the scolding Yumi received was just like the scolding she received from Hiji, so it was just symbolic. Although Yumi was recommended by Adu to be the person in charge of eliminating the inner ghosts in Yuanzu district Junsha, and was even assigned a secret duty against Team Flare, but, after all, it has only been a few days since Yumi took office. In just a few days, major cases have been solved one after another, and the little tail of Yuanzu Junsha's ghost is even about to be caught, and he has been exposed to cases related to ultimate alien dangerous objects many times. At this time, it is obviously unreasonable to blame Yumi for this stubborn disease in the Yuanzu area. It will take time for others to deal with it, right? But since Yumi was taking the initiative to follow up on this incident, Adu just said a few symbolic words to her at this time. Joey also came over and informed Eminem and Zylan that Bangerous and Bite Land Shark were completely fine and were resting. When Zylan and Amu were completely relieved, Zylan also looked at Amu and said, the matter of the Scorched Tower is not difficult, right? How about tomorrow? Of course there is no difficulty. Thanks to Miss Zylan, otherwise it would be very difficult for me to get in. It will be just right if Miss Zylan is with me tomorrow, Eminem said honestly. Since we are going to the burnt tower together, there is no need to be so polite. Just call me Sister Zylan, and I will just call you Amu, Zylan said with a smile. At this time Eminem thought to himself, how else would he be so popular? A certain champion with a worrying hairline has known him for such a long time, but he never asked me to call him Brother Sakaki or Asaka. Can we go to? Yuanzi asked curiously. Of course, I'm just going to verify some of the legends I just heard, but if something is really touched by then, it may be dangerous. In that case, I will let my Pokémon send. When you go out, be sure not to wander around by yourself. Zealand agreed and gave a few more instructions. Great. Then let's. Yuanzi said and looked at Xiaolan point. However, Xiaolan said regretfully at this time, sorry, I have to go to Yuan's Yujunsha branch with Conan tomorrow. You and Eminem should go together. Conan also had to take a confession, and he might have to undergo some criticism and education. At this time, Conan smiled coquettishly point in the same way. Of course EG wants to go, and Kazuha also accompanies him. Zealand obviously doesn't like this golden brat who starts by saying, 20th and I have a different history in Golden City. Is there anything I need to prepare when I arrive? Zealand, sister. Amu called her politely. There is nothing special to prepare. I just want to try to see if the ability you inherited from Uchiha Madara will lead to any special changes in the burnt tower. Zealand shook his head and motioned for Eminem to relax. Sure enough, Zealand's purpose was the same as Eminem guessed. And Zealand must have thought of it on the spur of the moment. Zealand didn't really know much about Eminem before. During the competition, she was initially surprised by the fire skill slot attached to Eternal Flame, but I reacted later. It must have been at that time that Zealand thought that Amu's abilities were closely related to the Phoenix King, so she temporarily wanted to take Amu with her to have a look. At this time, the organizer of the carnival also came, and it was Eminem's acquaintance Yuya. Miss Zealand, I'm really sorry, Yuya said to Zealand with a guilty look on her face as soon as she came in. However, when Zealand faced them, her face was obviously cold. She just nodded reservedly and said, well, that's not your original intention. I hope you will pay more attention to security issues in the future. Yes, I have also asked for instructions from my superiors. I will pay attention to safety in the future. In addition, for the finals, it was terminated due to force majeure, so the competition committee decided, before Yuya could finish speaking, Zealand said first, it's Eminem who won. Amu was stunned when he heard this. Eminem felt that it was just the opposite. Before the game went wrong, Zealand's Bite the Land Shark actually had the advantage. It was originally because Bite the Land Shark was a little excited at the time, so he gave Leoben a chance. But, under the circumstances at that time, Eminem felt that, if there were no accidents, Bite the Land Shark should win if the competition continued. After all, even if it falls into a frenzy, the hard power advantage of Bite the Land Shark will be difficult to erase. Of course, now Eminem also knows the 3 Pokémon that Sister Zealand participated in as Tiramisu are not even considered as her reserve team. They are just raised casually. Even except for the Bite Land Shark, the others are not included in her reserve team. Not really trained. That biting land shark is indeed the child of Zealand's trump card, so Zealand tried to train it to learn Dragon Dance, but failed, so its reaction to Dragon Dance was so big. At that time, Eminem's Bankilis was still able to rescue my Sharksha, which shows that he had more spare power. This is Zealand's judgment. No, there was an accident at that time, and I had already started to use my special abilities. Otherwise, if we continue to fight, Sister Zealand's Bite Land Shark will definitely be stronger. Amu shook his head quickly. Eminem, so Sharksha is better than your old class, then, sister, lost because of the trainer's ability? Zealand pretended to be suddenly, and looked at Eminem at this time. Said and winked, sister, Zealand, please stop teasing me. A mutant smiled prettily. Yuya quickly interjected, both. The competition committee has decided that both of them are the winners of the Monster Cup. Chapter 627 Business. The organizer was very smart and set up double championships. As a result, Eminem also achieved the achievement of 50-50 with Bamboo Orchid Dense Fog. By the way, regarding the limited edition cakes, this year's cakes will be delivered the day after tomorrow. Starting next year, you can choose any date and location for delivery, as long as they are regional central cities in the 9 major alliances and places within a 5-hour drive of the surrounding areas. Can all be delivered, and you can choose to deliver it on your birthday. Yuya introduced it at this time. No, I will wait until I see your new products and contact the delivery person. The one delivered the day after tomorrow will be just right, and we will be back from the Scorched Tower by then. Zealand said that she is pragmatic. Is it time that you have to choose when eating cake? No, of course choose the most delicious and uneaten ones. And judging from Zealand's love for desserts, when it comes to her birthday, the cake from Kamen Rider may not even be on the table. Upon seeing this, Eminem also said, I choose New Year, and send it to Sangzhou town near Kaianhang City in Kanto on New Year's Day. Amu is someone who cares about his family very much. Zealand praised from the side point I sent it to my hometown during the new year, obviously to share it with my family point regarding this kind of compliment. Eminem naturally smiled slightly and accepted it all. Eminem didn't know his own birthday, but it could be used as a New Year's cake. It doesn't matter if you eat it the day after tomorrow. You can take the New Year's portion to Grandma Rexy and Sister King Mui to eat together. After adding Zealand as a friend in the illustrated book, they agreed on a time and place to meet tomorrow. And then Eminem and Zealand separated. Xiaolan and Conan are going to Junsha headquarters, while Amu and Yuanzi return to the Pokémon Center. As for Zealand, obviously she has no intention of staying at the Pokémon Center, and may even use the time afterwards to go to various places. Dessert shop Tandy and point back at the Pokémon Center. Eminem happened to see that Tomoyo, Sakura, and AI had just come back. Sakura looked drained. Zio AI also looked hopeless, and Tomoyo still had some. Began small bundles of clothes. Eminem can probably guess what they went to do. Eminem has left Zio AI in the care of Tomoyo for the past 2 days. The original intention was just to let Tomoyo take her to dinner, but when Tomoyo was making new uniforms for Sakura, he would often bring Zio AI with him, and then, by the way, he would also let Zio AI try on various clothes. Zio AI now feels that it is better to watch Masked Superman. I heard there was another bombing at your place. It's a good thing you didn't come today Daiji Mall with us. After seeing Eminem, Tomoyo immediately greeted him with a smile point. Although there are no specific reports yet, the incident at the carnival has already made emergency news. No, don't make it sound like the explosion happened because of us. If we went to Daodaosi shopping mall, we wouldn't have encountered the explosion. Eminem rolled his eyes when he heard this. Where are the others? Tomoyo asked curiously. I'm going to take a statement. Amu said, sure. Enough. Tomoyo knew, if it had nothing to do with you, how could he go back and record a confession? Slim Shady. This was really irrefutable, and Eminem had no choice but to say, at least it has nothing to do with me or Sonoko, it must all be Conan's fault. While talking, the group of people also entered the elevator together. After returning to the room, Eminem took advantage of the time before going to bed to write today's battle diary point. Although there is no command at all, and there is no gold content, this is the first time Eminem has fought with a champion level strongman, and it is a 50-50 fight. Right, from now on, Eminem will no longer be an expert pharmacist and one of the top 4 in the Kanto rookie competition, but a 50-50 match with Zealand, an expert pharmacist. By the way, Eminem also summarized his thoughts after being trapped in the exploding head today. Next time he encounters a similar thing, he will be able to handle it faster and better. Tomorrow, I will also go to the Scorch Tower, Zio AI said to Amu at this time. She could no longer stand Chai's. Well, it should be okay, Eminem said, sending a message to Sister Zealand. Have you made an appointment with someone else? Zio AI asked curiously. If it was just Yuanzi, Eminem wouldn't have to should point after hearing this. Eminem quietly said to Zio AI, is it a league champion, or is it someone who mainly invites me? Guess who it is? Zio AI looked at Eminem's expression and said with a subtle look of disgust, Zealand or Kaluni. Huh, you guessed it right. It's Sister Zealand. Eminem said in surprise point counting Sakaki and Ado. There are 10 league champions in total. How can they be eliminated from the second choice at once? When? Did you understand reasoning? Amu marveled. Haha, I just understand your men's faces. Zio AI curled her lips and said point. If it was Sakaki, would you look proud to be invited? Zealand, on the other hand, had no objection to Eminem bringing her sister, but reminded her again that, if some special circumstances arise, she must obey the command. It's only 8 o'clock. Aren't you very tired? Let's do something important. Zio AI said seriously. Today, you don't need to try anymore. We will have more time during the Chinese New Year. Eminem wanted to persuade him again. No, the situation won't change much until the Chinese New Year, and it's more convenient to go to the Pokémon Center. ZioAI insisted. Eminem thought about it, and it seemed that was indeed the case. Although Grandma Ike in the family should be a master pharmacist at the level, but this is not a problem with the medicine, and when it comes to first aid, pharmacists are not as reliable as a Pokémon Center in a regional central city. I saw Eminem taking out a new Pokéball, and then I couldn't see how to operate it. It flashed inexplicably and immediately became connected, as if he had just conquered some invisible Pokéball. Dream, of course. Eminem actually contacted Leixi and linked the spatial coordinates of little Ibrahimovic. No need for ZioAI to elaborate. Eminem also notes that the so-called business is, of course, to provide treatment to mutated EV. I saw that little Ibrahimovic had just been released, and he immediately showed a different and cute appearance of unruly, baring his teeth at Eminem. This was the result of cultivation at Leixi's place. Otherwise, it should be bitten directly, or even attacked by transformation and evolution. At this time, Eminem used animal senses to suppress its mania to the maximum. ZioAI touched its body and took out a refrigerated syringe. After the injection, little Ibrahimovic calmed down a bit, but the next step is the key point. I saw ZioAI taking out a bunch of unknown tools, the most important of which was a sealed reagent tube containing purple gas. Some of them looked like the finished products previously found in the Lake of Anger. How about letting Conan try it first? Eminem felt a little sorry for little Evie. The finished product they need is not something that he can try first. I have already tried it on him. ZioAI said calmly. The process was less smooth than Eminem and even ZioAI imagined, and the process lasted until the early morning of the next day. Fortunately, the final result did not deviate too much. ZioAI also took a trick and combined it with Eminem's special ability to develop this treatment plan and a temporary suppression device. After a night of tossing, I saw that little Evie had woken up. There was an extra collar around his neck with a flickering colorless crystal in the middle. The most important thing was that there was no usual sight in his opened eyes. Instead of being irritable, he was a little cute. When he saw the tired ZioAI beside him, he even took the initiative to post some stickers. Chapter 628 Naming. Ibrahimovic. Little Ibrahimovic went up and pressed against little AI. Okay, you are such a clingy child. Although ZioAI looked tired, she still showed her long-lost relaxed smile. When Eminem was at the Zhenghu Research Institute, he discovered the essence of little Evie's situation. It was not its tyrannical character itself, but its unstable genes that were taking over its behavior all the time. When communicating with animal senses, little Evie has no problem. When it is expressed at this time, it is like every normal emotion will be added with a furious buff. Now its genes have been temporarily stabilized. In principle, Eminem also heard ZioAI say it, and it actually has some similarities with App 9527. Those who cannot stabilize will die, and those who stabilize are Conan and ZioAI. ZioAI couldn't make App 9527 stable, so he had no choice but to use tricks at this time. That is, to cooperate with Eminem's own special ability. Now the form of little Evie is completely stable in the state of Evie. Just using skills will not change into the form corresponding to the attributes of the skills like before. But I saw Eminem playing with an extra pebble on his bracelet at this time. This was also the signal device ZioAI had just installed for him, and it was installed under the keystone. It can be said that this is the artificial megastone and artificial keystone created by ZioAI. With the help of the resonance between the two, little Evie can temporarily evolve into the forms of Lieb, Fire Evie, Water Evie, Leaf Evie and Ice Evie. When I was at Zhenghu Research Institute, the first 4 experiments on mutated Evie had been completed, and the final Ice Evie was still under development. In fact, it was entirely because the genes were unstable at that time that it could not be realized. Now that Zio AI has succeeded, this little EV can directly cooperate with Eminem and evolve into the form of ICV. As for other forms, they can also be developed. It is equivalent to summarizing those unstable evolutionary states into a state similar to mega evolution. This also relies on Eminem's special ability, otherwise it would be impossible to restrain its genetic madness. So this little EV cannot be too far away from Eminem or Leoka. When it is close to Leoka, Leoka can amplify Eminem's signal through its own connection with Eminem, so there is no big problem. In other words, there is no problem when it is stored in a Pokeball. It can even be like Lightning Bird Ball, which does not take up Eminem's quota, because its spatial position in the Pokeball is actually at Leoka's place, and Leoka can pass the coordinates over at any time. That is, it can be transferred at any time. Use an empty Pokeball to release EV. That is to say, as long as I have enough energy, I can continuously change the shape of little EV. Eminem looked at the small stone under his keystone with some curiosity. No, to be precise, little EV's previous evolution conditions are still there. When it needs to use skills, you can stimulate the power of EV keystone to make it evolve. Otherwise, you can only activate it. There is still a risk of genetic instability, Zio AI reminded. In order to avoid risks, Zio AI did not make that kind of design. Eminem cannot unilaterally make little EV evolve. On the contrary, without Eminem's cooperation, if little EV uses skills by himself, he will just use the skills, and it will not evolve. But you don't want to send it out on the field, do you? Then there will be too many things to explain. Zio AI glanced at the excited Eminem. Little EV's current level is not low, already over 60, 10 levels faster than when he first met Eminem. Eminem has never trained it at all, but the place where it lives is really moist. Except for occasionally doing it too hard, it will be gently bounced away by Leoka. A perfect living environment. Generally speaking, it is difficult for wild Pokémon to improve naturally even at level 50 or 60. If there are such high level wild Pokémon, it must be the result of being surrounded by other Pokémon of similar strength and fighting with each other, rather than simply growing. But it's different with Leoka. The energy level is too high. Even if the little EV grows naturally, he can continue to increase his growth level, even when he is over level 50. Coupled with his stunt of changing forms, little Ibrahimovic not only has a promising future, but also is obviously good at the rookie competition. Although it was conquered in the Kanto region, it can be used as the third alternative after Agaric and Nido. After all, you can still play a non-regional Pokémon in every game, and if it is not a rookie competition, the unlimited level regional competition is generally limited to 3 animals to conquer in this region. Zio AI's worry is that once little Ibrahimovic's situation is exposed, Eminem will have to explain to the public, "It doesn't matter, I'm not afraid of the shadow. I didn't do the evil experiment. Ahem. I mean, we are the ones who saved little EV. What do we feel guilty about?" Eminem saw Zio AI glaring at him. He quickly removed her from the evil experiment. Seeing that Zio AI was still worried, Eminem added, "What's more, have you forgotten? Teacher Jumu will ask me to attend the press conference in the next year. Although I have no contribution in theoretical research, I actually cultivated the little bad bear. It came out with such a great scientific research result. It's not eye-catching for little EV to be sent out by me, right?" Zio AI felt a little relieved after hearing this. At this time, Eminem suddenly said, "Speaking of which, little EV doesn't seem like a formal name. Let's give it a formal name, Ibrahimovic." Little Ibrahimovic seemed to understand. Before, it was useless to give it a name, because it couldn't communicate properly at all. How about calling it Zia? Seeing that it was very close to Zio AI, Eminem wanted to give it a name that Zio AI didn't use before. Ibrahimovic? Little Ibrahimovic was confused. "No, let me think about it." Zio AI still understands Eminem's abilities. However, just before the name was decided, there was a knock on the door at Eminem's house. When Eminem looked at the time, it's almost 5 o'clock. As soon as he opened the door, Eminem saw Tomoyo in pajamas, knocking on the door, and yawning at the same time. When he heard the door opening, he immediately stopped and rolled his eyes at himself, as if complaining, "Don't yawn while I'm here. It's time to open the door." Did Sakura dream again? Eminem asked. Well, this time it should really be a precognitive dream. Tomoyo said seriously. The last time Sakura dreamed of being haunted, it was obviously just a nightmare and had nothing to do with cloak cards or precognitive dreams. Immediately before Eminem could speak, Tomoyo looked at Eminem in confusion and said, "You're not sleeping again. Who is in the house this time?" She discovered that Eminem was not wearing pajamas, and there was no sleeping look on his face. "No, there is no one else this time. It's Zio AI. Zio AI and I are busy with some things, and we are currently naming the child," Eminem explained seriously. Tomoyo. Chapter 629 Ominous Prophetic Dream. Tomoyo and Sakura's room. Eminem also brought little Evie, otherwise it would be unclear, but Zio AI was not there, so Eminem asked her to take a rest, and also gave her a bottle of soothing potion as an exception. It can improve the quality of sleep, and 3 hours of sleep can have the effect of a full night, but it can't be used often, especially for her that little kid's body. Occasionally, it's okay to have an emergency. After all, it's already this time, and he's just had a high intensity mental work. If he doesn't use calming potion, Zio AI will not only suffer from jet lag, but also won't be able to get a good rest. There is such a magical EV. No, it should be said that Team Flare is really a dangerous guy, and they actually made such a dangerous Pokémon experiment. Tomoyo also looked at Zio EV in surprise at this time cloth point. At first he was amazed, but after learning its principle, he began to denounce Team Flare. At this time, Zio K used the 2 tentacles on his head to touch little Eevee's head curiously, and the result, Eevee, little Ibrahimovic slapped him on the head with a backhand. "Hey, kid, are you too rude?" Zio K immediately protested. By the way, Zio K can also temporarily evolve. Eminem remembered at this moment that Zio K used the power of Japanese card to temporarily evolve into Solgalea, which seemed to be somewhat similar to little Eevee. They all turn normal evolution into temporary. However, Zio K is not the real Solgalea, or even a Pokémon, but a magical creation. By the way, if you have the Moon card, can you evolve into Lunala? Amu asked curiously. Of course, we can't. The guardian beast of the moon is another guy, and I don't know where he is. He should be able to feel that the cloak card has been unsealed. When Zio K mentioned this, he complained, "Let's not talk about this. You are going to the Scorched Tower today, right?" Tomoyo interrupted at this time. "That's right, but if it's more urgent for Sakura, I can also." Of course, Eminem is not the kind of person who forgets about his companions after being invited by a beauty champion. "No, I think we might have to go together," Tomoyo said at this time. Amu was stunned when he heard this. "I saw it. I saw in my dream that the high tower in the northwest of the city was burning with flames reaching into the sky, and the Phoenix King also descended from the sky," Sakura said at this time, and while speaking, she looked at Zio Yibu's eyes were a little strange. "Northwest of the city? Flame?" Amu was stunned when he heard this. Compared to before, the direction this time is more obvious. Isn't this talking about Scorched Tower? But is this going to be burned again? Legend has it that the Scorched Tower was built more than 700 years ago. There is controversy over its builder. There is even controversy over whether it was built by humans or by Hao and Lugia. What is certain is that a fire broke out here 150 years ago, and since then, neither Phoenix nor Lugia has patronized this place anymore. 150 years ago, it was already the 50th anniversary of the Alliance, although the Alliance was established not long ago at that time. Especially the Quartz Alliance and the Sinnoh Alliance, they had not yet completely suppressed the Galaxy team, and were still in the process of tug-of-war, but there are already accurate historical records. The main body of Xianguan continent, that is, the 3 regions of Sinnoh, Kanto, and Johto, are the last to settle down among the 10 major regions ruled by the 9 major alliances. Firstly, it is because the headquarters of the Junsha clan is in the Hezhang region, which is relatively far away from the Xianguan continent, so the alliance initially appeared in the Hezhang region first. Secondly, because the ancient civilizations in the Xianguan continent are generally relatively strong and can persist for a long time. and the boss of Team Galaxy. Regarding the fire 150 years ago, mainstream records state that the Holy Tower, which was known as the Cell Tower at the time, was destroyed in the last battle before the Galaxy team was completely driven out of the Johto area. Legend has it that 3 Pokémon guarding the Bell Tower died at that time and were resurrected by the Phoenix King, who arrived later and became Thunder King, Fire Emperor and Suicune, the current 3 kings. Holy Beast and Phoenix Guards point there is no official record of this, but what is certain is that the concept of 3 Holy Beasts did not just appear 150 years ago, but is more primitive. In other words, even if Thunderlord, Fire Lord, and Suicune do appear, they are not the first ones today. The remains of the Scorched Tower still remain in place. Due to the expansion of the city, it has moved from the northwest of the city to the northwest of the city. Although it is still a suburb of the city, there are many more modern buildings around it, and it has become a famous scenic spot in itself. After showing Sakura the photos on the internet and confirming that it was the Scorched Tower, Eminem sent a text message to Sister Zealand and explained what happened to Sakura. As the champion of the Sinnoh region, Zealand can completely know and understand magical girl as expected. Zealand is also very interested in magical girls, or Kurorido's heir, and is also very concerned about her precognitive dream. The current Scorched Tower is an important mythological relic. If it was burned down again, Zealand, as a mythologist and ruins archaeologist, would feel more distressed than anyone else. It just so happens that Sister Zealand is here too. Let's go to the burning tower together. I'm sure Eminem was about to say that he was sure of it, but Sakura suddenly interrupted. Wait a minute. If it's possible, can you not bring it? Sakura said and pointed at little Eevee. Ibrahimovic. Hearing this, little Eevee looked at Sakura with confusion, and then grievance. After the 2 eyes were slightly soaked in water, they became even more adorable. Eminem was also a little surprised by Sakura's reaction. No, I don't hate you. I do. Actually, I still vaguely remember seeing an Eevee in my dream, and it was burned to death there. Sakura said quickly. Because she couldn't remember the details, Sakura didn't say anything at first, just preparing to pay attention when the time came to see if there were any similar Pokémon inside. However, Eminem hugged an Eevee directly, which made Sakura's memory clear. What she saw was Eevee. What? Eminem was stunned when he heard this, and he also had some doubts in his heart. No matter how much he thought about today's Linoop, there would be no accidents. But then Eminem nodded and said, well, I won't let it happen then. It's coming out. As for not taking it, there is no way not to take it. After all, even if the elf ball is taken back, the little Eevee will still be with Leocat and cannot be fostered in other breeding houses at 8 o'clock in the morning. I woke up. After everyone had breakfast, they went to the Scorched Tower to meet Zealand. Chapter 630 Reason. The Scorched Tower is 30 to 40 meters high. Although it is only about a dozen stories high, it should be commonplace for modern people, but because it is located on the outskirts of the city and there are restrictions on high-rise buildings around it, it looks lonely and towering. The entire tower seems to be carved out of a single piece of rock, and it occupies a large area. Even though it is narrow at the top and wide at the bottom, it now looks more like a building. However, 150 years ago, the tower could be seen here. Because at that time there was still 1/3 above the really narrowed 3rd floor and the top platform part of the tower. Now it can only be seen on the restoration map. A fire 150 years ago destroyed the 3rd floor and the top of the Scorched Tower. It can still be seen today that the top of the tower is now a ruined wall covered with scorched marks. 2.5 back then. Thanks to the thick rock structure, the ruins of this burnt tower can still be seen today. When Eminem and others came to the Scorched Tower, they soon saw Zealand dressed in tiramisu, bamboo. Tiramisu. Eminem greeted immediately. Although it was off season, there were still some tourists around, so Eminem didn't call Zealand by name. Not to mention Sonoko, Tomoyo, Sakura and AI also met Zealand for the first time. But only Sakura looked a little nervous. Tomoyo was still calm and generous, greeting her with a dignified manner, while Aioi had an expression of who is this person. Sakura, you are the heir of Kurorido, as Eminem said, right? Zealand was most curious about Sakura. No. I just happened to lose the clue cards, and I was responsible for finding them back later. Sakura quickly denied point. However, Zealand also said with a very understanding look, the clue card. If you are not the heir of Clorido, you can't conquer the clue card, right, sister? Zealand also knows about Kurorido? Eminem asked curiously point. Because the distance is very close, no one else can hear her calling sister Zealand at this time. Of course, I have also been to Gala, and even visited Hogwarts. Unfortunately, Dean Dumbledore preferred to retain some mystery, and did not allow me to conduct in-depth archaeological research on Hogwarts. Zealand said, with a look of regret on her face. Well, if Dumbledore allows it, Eminem suspects that Zealand, as a professional, will dig out all the little secrets of Hogwarts. However, whether it is for utilitarian reasons, for example, there are many mysteries Dumbledore does not want to be discovered by outsiders, or from a romantic perspective, what kind of magic academy is a magic academy without some secrets, security, risks? Dumbledore was unwilling to agree to Zealand's request. Therefore, Bamboo Orchid failed to be archaeologically found in Hogwarts. In your precognitive dream, you saw the scorched tower burning again. Zealand asked Sakura at this time point. Since Sakura is recognized as the heir of Kurorido, Zealand doesn't feel strange about precognitive dreams or anything like that. It should be, right? Sorry, I was confused in my dream, Sakura said in surprise. Then, let's go take a look. But as far as I know, there should be nothing burning inside now. Zealand nodded point all the way to the scorched tower. A staff member stopped a few people. Sorry, the front is not open to tourists. You can wait until the new year. On certain festivals every year, part of the first floor of the scorched tower will be temporarily open. No, I have permission. Zealand showed her illustrated book to the other party. The other party took it and saw Zealand's identity on the illustrated book before checking the authority. You. Zealand made a silencing gesture. Yes. Please come in. The staff recognized Zealand and saw the access permissions in the illustrated book, so naturally they didn't check anymore. Even the issue of too many escorts was not pointed out. Entering the scorched tower, Amu also understood what Zealand said before. Not only is it empty, but the building structure is completely rocky, and there is nothing that can be burned. No wonder some people think that the burnt tower was not built by humans. Amu couldn't help but sigh as he looked at the interior, which looked more like it was carved out. As for the outside, the man-made traces are still very heavy, because, for decoration, bricks are put on the outside. The remaining 30 to 40 meter high tower now has 2.5 floors of space inside, and you can see the height of each floor. It was empty, like a huge cave, with some broken rocks scattered here. Eminem even saw a super bat, a Pokémon that usually lives in underground caves or caves. Follow me closely from now on, and don't wander around. Zealand emphasized at this time. On the one hand, it was for their safety, and on the other hand, Zealand didn't want them to cause unnecessary damage to the ruins. I saw Zealand releasing a lighted Pokémon at this time. At first glance, it looks like a desk lamp. As soon as you take it out, you can see the faint green light illuminating the surroundings. But the next moment, Yuanzi exclaimed a little, and instinctively grabbed the arm of Amu next to him. If Xiaolan was next to him, Yuanzi and Xiaolan would be grabbing each other now, and Yuanzi was used to it. I saw a somewhat ferocious ghost face in the green light. Sorry, I forgot to remind you, this is my flower rock monster, Zealand said embarrassedly. The physical part of the Hawaiian monster is a stone, with a massive dark pink gaseous material condensed on it. In this massive gaseous material, there are many small green balls floating, and they form a shape similar to the facial features. At first glance, it does seem a bit scary. By the way, Sister Zealand, what exactly is the legend you want to verify? Is it related to the Phoenix King? Eminem asked curiously at this time. No, legends related to the Phoenix King are common. I have visited many times, and found nothing detailed, Zealand said at this time. Slim Shady. It's not because of Phoenix King. Then, aren't you looking for me for eternal flame? Could it be that you just think I'm handsome? Yuanzi vaguely noticed that the Eminem next to him seemed to hold his head up a little more, and he couldn't help but feel embarrassed in his heart. Could it be that he thought that I grabbed his arm because I was attracted to him? After calming down, Yuanzi quickly and shyly let go of Amu Point immediately. Zealand took the initiative to continue. I recently heard another version of the legend. In a secluded tribe, this place was originally called the Bell Tower, right? Do you know? In the legend recorded by that tribe, the Bell Tower, the tower is not only 700 years old, but even earlier. A rabbi lived here in order to worship Salibi, the divine beast of time. People cast a bell 700 years ago and dedicated it to Salibi. Slim Shady. Well, of course, this is not to give a clock to Salibi, but the clock itself is used to tell time and has the meaning of guarding time. Point, that is to say, the reason why I found Eminem was indeed not because of eternal flame, but it was not because of his looks, but because Eminem was Salibi's well-wisher. Eminem couldn't help but feel a little depressed. It seemed that his appearance was still within the normal range. Yuanzi keenly discovered that after he let go, Eminem felt a little depressed for no reason. So, under the green light, Yuanzi's face turned red. He stared down at Eminem's hand for a long time, and finally stretched it out. Chapter 631 Mythology Scholar snapped. Just before Sonoko was about to grab Eminem's hand, Tomoyo took the initiative to grab her outstretched hand. Sonoko, I didn't expect you to be afraid of the dark. Let's hold hands and walk, Tomoyo said with a smile. Okay, he. Yuanzi said with a guilty smile. Sakura was also confused when she saw this. When did Tomoyo become afraid of the dark? But then I thought about it. Tomoyo must have said this specifically because he was afraid that Sonoko would be embarrassed. What a considerate person. Eminem was unaware of what was happening behind him, and he still had a normal conversation with Zealand. Just because of the bell in the bell tower, I thought it was related to Salibi. Isn't it a little bit out of the ordinary? Already, all the mainstream legends that Eminem has heard so far are related to the Scorched Tower by the Hao or Lugia. This is not surprising. After all, as a mythologist, Zealand only recently heard about this rare legend in a certain secluded tribe. Actually, no matter whether this is the residence of King Feng or the residence of Lugia, there are flaws. Zealand explained at this time. Whether you call it the Scorched Tower or the Bell Tower, the only certain time is that 150 years ago, the last war between the Quartz Alliance and the Galaxy Team occurred south of Xianguan Mountain was burned, and at that time some people saw the Phoenix King and some saw the three holy beasts. Another time when something should have happened was more than 700 years ago. Although there is no way to verify it, and there is no concrete evidence, multiple versions of legends all point to this point in time, either that it was built, or that the arrival of the mythical beast. From a mythological perspective, something must have really happened at that time. Speaking of more than 700 years ago, for the area south of the Tenguan Mountains, it was during the Ninja Village era, after the Fourth Ninja War, when the number of immigrants in the Johto area gradually increased. You also got the eternal flame. You should understand, right? Uchiha Madara's power originally came from Ho-Oh. If there really is a Ho-King here, at least there should be Uchiha clan migrating here. Mark of Eminem was stunned for a moment. This was the first time he heard someone interpret legends in this way. Legends are not history. We don't know whether they are true or false, and most of them don't have any tangible evidence to prove or falsify them. So Zealand also uses the method of mutual confirmation to judge point. But when he heard this, Eminem couldn't help but said, no, Eminem remembers, Enju City also has the Uchiha Ancestral Hall, a tourist attraction. It is said to be the ancestral hall of a branch of the Uchiha clan who migrated later. So far, I have traced all the traces in Ensu City claiming to be related to Uchiha, but without exception, people only started to claim themselves within 300 years ago. Although Zealand did not say it clearly, but it has already expressed its meaning. A group of fakes. In other words, starting 700 years ago, for hundreds of years, the Uchiha clan was not interested in Ensu City. This alone makes the legend that the Phoenix King lives here unbelievable, as for the statement that Lugia lives here, it is even more strange. Lugia is the god of ocean currents and monsoons. Since the Alliance era, all the actual sighting records, whether it is the real sea god, or small Lugia, or in seaside, either on islands, or in the open sea, never inland, and Lugia's habitat, the Whirlpool Island, although it moves, and the specific location cannot be determined, it has always been Lugia's habitat. This is not a legend. Zealand continued. Ordinarily, Lugia would never come to the inland areas like the Ensu area, even though small Lugias are unlikely, not to mention, humans know the habitat of Lugia, Whirlpool Island. It's just, I don't know the specific location. It couldn't be that Scorched Tower was called Whirlpool Island before, right? In comparison, the statement that Celebi once lived here is more credible, because time ripples did appear here. Zealand is looking forward to the results this time, but 150 years ago, the Phoenix King appeared here. It can't be wrong, right? After all, the Alliance had been established at that time, and on the battlefield, many people should have witnessed it. Eminem, he asked curiously, this is really strange. The Phoenix King is said to be a mythical beast with a happy image, but it would actually appear on the battlefield. Zealand was also puzzled by this. I heard that the Alliance is not related to the mythical beasts. Couldn't you just ask directly? Amu asked curiously. Zealand was stunned when he heard this, then smiled and said, the connections are not that close, especially here in Chyanguan continent. Other alliances will cooperate with the divine beasts to limit and fight against the ultimate beasts, so there will be more connections. Some, and the contact is generally limited to official matters, and it is at the level of the 3 holy bads and 3 holy beasts, speaking of which, it's not as close as your mythical beast trainers, who are partners with their own mythical beasts, and there is no possibility of gossip. Moreover, many mythical beasts themselves are very taboo about some legends, and are unwilling to say more. After hearing this, Amu understood clearly. It seemed that the so-called relationship between the Alliance and the divine beasts was not as close as that between himself and Xiao Shen. It's just a pity that Xiao Shen was not born even 150 years ago, let alone 700 years ago. Otherwise, even if she didn't want to say it, Eminem felt that she could trick him out, and when Eminem heard the second half of Zealand's words, her tone was a bit sad. It feels like Zealand has probably annoyed some mythical beasts because of her mythological archaeology everywhere. After all, isn't doing mythological archaeology in this world the same as her past experience of picking up mythical beasts? These mythical beasts are still alive. While Amu and Zealand were talking, they had already arrived in front of a huge rubble. Seeing Zealand leading the way here, Eminem was confused. Without waiting to ask, Zealand released Bite the Land Shark. At this time, Eminem could feel that this momentum was her real trump card. Not the one we fought before. I saw this great heaven leaking level Bite the Land Shark. I didn't need Zealand to command her, but he understood what she meant. He stepped forward and moved the boulder away, and then a staircase spreading downwards was revealed. Ah, so the burnt tower really has an underground floor? Yuanzi exclaimed at this time. At this time, Zealand turned back to them and said, to be a mythological archaeologist, the first thing you must learn is to keep secrets. She then made a gesture of silence, obviously to remind them not to leak anything. Although it is not as dangerous as its counterparts in the Chem world, there is some dark history that the mythical beast may not want to be known about. It is for this reason that Zealand has rich archaeological experience, but there are very few actual public results. Many times, when Zealand knows something, she will consciously keep it secret. Chapter 632, Collecting Medicine. Hey, I saw Zealand jump down from above neatly. The stone staircase leading to the underground level had partially collapsed, but it was not far from the ground. Zealand jumped over the handrail and jumped down. Often found in various ruins. Zealand is also very agile. Seeing this, Eminem first picked up Xiao AI and jumped down. Then he turned around and found that Yuanzi had raised his legs and stepped on the handrail. Wait. Upon seeing this, Eminem quickly wanted to stop him. Help me. Yuanzi was so impatient that he jumped down as well, followed by a burst of exclamations. Probably because it was too dark, Sonoko saw the distances too short. This was not a height that she could jump directly to. Fortunately, Eminem was below and caught her directly. With Eminem's core strength, his waist did not collapse, and he caught her steadily and put her down. The next moment, Sakura was seen riding the staff and sliding down with Tomoyo. Yes, as a trainer of the traveling sect, even if you are not a fighting type, you must have a strong body. Zealand saw Eminem's strong skills, so she praised him. It's just that I fell a lot, Eminem said modestly. At the same time, Eminem also looked around under the illumination of the flower rock monster. It turns out that the burnt tower really has an underground. Amu said in wonder. There is indeed an underground in the game, but after traveling through time, Eminem had never heard that there was an underground here. Well, I discovered this place 4 years ago, but at that time I was looking for other clues, and I happened to find in the legend of the escapist tribe mentioned before, their ancestors would sacrifice to Rabbi Salibi every year. Offer a lot of lily flowers that you picked. Lily flowers also appeared in the description of the fire 150 years ago, right? Fire dragons and thick smoke swept across the bell tower. After the fire, the surrounding sea of lily flowers was covered with a layer of black. It can be seen that at least 150 years ago, there was indeed a sea of lily flowers nearby. Zealand mentioned one of the reasons why she believed in this legend. The escapist tribe is in the Xianguan Mountains, which is in the northwest of the Chengdu area. For the escapist tribe, this distance is still very far, especially because it is blocked by mountains and rivers. However, their ancient legends accurately describe the lily flower, a small white flower that grows in the forest. When the buds hang down, they are somewhat bell-shaped, but at that time, there were large lily flowers planted around the bell tower, and wasn't that because of the shape of the lily flower? Eminem raised some objections at this time. Yuanzi wondered at this time. Besides, Salibi is close to nature. Wouldn't he like picking flowers? Salibi often chases time ripples, and most of the time he is not in the so-called habitat. Perhaps it is just human beings doing this out of wishful thinking, and maybe he was stopped by Salibi and then changed to planting. Are they around? Zealand said speculatively, but indeed, this kind of coincidence is not enough, so I came here underground. Well, the ground here on the underground level is made of rammed earth. From the water seepage, you can find some light-hating plants and fungi. It would be great if you could find longevity grass. ZHU Line seemed to have said something irrelevant at this time point, but Eminem immediately understood what Zealand meant. What does the longevity grass mean? Yuanzi still didn't understand. Simpervivum is a very magical plant because it produces seeds on its roots. After it dies, the new plant will inherit the nutrients and even part of the body of the former, so it was considered an immortal plant in the past. The reason why it is so frugal is because the growing environment of evergreen grass is very harsh, usually in areas with little light, water, and nutrients, just like here, and they are very good at using the decayed tissues of other plants to absorb nutrients. Depending on the absorbed nutrients, their growth forms are also different. And because of their characteristics, inherited from generation to generation, I heard that experts in archaeology can analyze the composition of everlasting grass to analyze the plants that have grown in one place over hundreds or thousands of years. Eminem took the initiative to explain to Yuanzi if it can be seen from the ingredients that the longevity grass here has absorbed nutrients from lilies, then it indirectly supports the legend of that tribe. Lilies do not grow underground. If a large number of lilies appear here, then it must be it is collected manually. Hey, there is such a plant. Yuanzi also marveled. That's right, it can be said that he is a natural recorder of plant genealogy. Zealand's tone also contained expectations as for Eminem knowing about everlasting grass. Zealand didn't find it strange at all. Everlasting grass has medicinal value, and as an expert pharmacist, it is normal for him to know this. Therefore, Eminem also helped Zealand search for her. As an old school pharmacist taught by Grandma Leixi, picking medicine is also a required skill for Eminem. Moreover, Eminem's sensitivity to medicinal materials is far beyond ordinary people. I have a hunch that there is longevity grass here. Eminem said confidently. Zealand was stunned when she heard this, and then said with joy, "It seems that I really did the right thing to invite you this time." The initial thought of asking Eminem to come along was just because he was Celebi's well-wisher. If there really was a Celebi living here, maybe he would have some sense. Now this is an unexpected surprise. After all, most of today's pharmacists don't know how to collect medicinal materials by themselves, and Amu is so young, and Zealand doesn't know Granny Leixi, so she didn't expect Amu to do this before. After Eminem had the medicinal properties of the immortality grass in his heart, the spirituality from the sequence 9 pharmacist was inspired. Just as Eminem said, he had a premonition that there must be an eternal life grass here. This is not a random premonition, but a real spiritual response. At this time, Eminem also took the initiative to lead the way, and Zealand also understood that Eminem was the professional in this regard. Not long after, Eminem was rummaging through a pile of rubble, and when he lifted up a rock slab, he said, "Yes, yes." Upon hearing this, Zealand immediately stepped forward and took out the prepared vial and brush. "Keep going." Zealand did not release the fierce biting land shark. It is better for humans to do such a delicate thing. While Amu knelt down and lifted up the rather large piece of rock, Zealand quickly knelt aside and reached in to brush it. "Are you okay?" Zealand felt Eminem tremble because she was close to him. "It's okay, my hair just hit my nose." Eminem said he was very relaxed. However, Tom Moyer behind him curled his lips in a vague manner at this moment. He was obviously nervous because his beautiful sister suddenly came up to her. Right. Hearing this, Zealand quickly swept the vine-like thing that looked like moss and grew from rocks as thin as a pen tip with some fine hairs into the bottle. "This is enough," Zealand said with satisfaction. "Is this enough?" Yuanzi thought it would be more grand. After all, it was a study related to mythical beasts. "No, we will go to the 3rd floor again later." Zealand wanted to go to the 3rd floor to have another look. The 3rd floor has actually been burned and collapsed and is now in an open air state. At the same time, Amu, who put down the rock slab, rubbed his eyebrows. "What's wrong?" Zealand keenly noticed that there was something strange about Eminem. "It's nothing." Eminem himself couldn't describe this feeling. It seemed somewhat familiar. Chapter 633 Conspiracy. Wait, has time ripple appeared here? Amu suddenly realized where this familiar feeling came from. What's wrong? There is indeed a saying that about 1,000 years ago, this place became full of life with the blessing of Rabbi Celebi. Zealand mentioned an uncommon legend at this time. According to legend, the forest north of Ensu city began to appear thousands of years ago. Ancient people believed that Celebi could not only travel through time, but was also the god of the forest. Wherever he appeared, the grass was luxuriant. However, modern people have understood something more deeply. Celebi itself will not make the grass and trees lush. It is the dissipated power of time ripple after Celebi has dealt with time ripple that will make the grass grow lush. The surrounding area has been full of life for a long time. Of course, long time cannot last for 1,000 years. The forests in the north of Yuansu city are now very ordinary. Because of the cold weather in autumn and winter, they are not very lush. However, scholars have indeed verified that thousands of years ago, there was an extremely lush forest environment here that defied the climate. After 2 phases of verification, it should be believed that time ripple has appeared here before. It's just that the time point of 1,000 years ago is somewhat inconsistent with the 700 years before the bell tower was built. Scene 2. Feel a time ripple forming nearby. Amu said, rubbing the center of his brow. This feeling is the same as when Eminem had the power to sense time ripples in Girl's Gap before. Because of his forehead protection, he felt like being blown into his head by time ripples. Maybe it's like after a cold wind blows hard on your head, you become sensitive to the breeze. Zealand's eyes lit up when she heard this and said, "So, Celebi will come wherever there are time ripples. Celebi will definitely appear." Zealand never expected such a harvest. The feeling is still very slight. "Let's go up and have a look first," Eminem said after sensing it carefully. Then the group of people returned to the stairs. This time Zealand released his bite land shark. It bent down and put the fins on its arms in front of everyone, pointed Zealand signal. After everyone stood up, Bite Land Shark raised his arms and lifted them to a height of more than 2 meters and then jumped back to the stairs before the break. By the way, be sure to be optimistic about Sharpay. Eminem turned to remind Sakura, don't worry, I'll look at it myself. Zioke said with half of his body exposed from the backpack on Sakura's back point previously in Yanmo City. Sharpay suddenly took effect, sending Eminem back to 2 years ago. Compared to Celebi, who can communicate and may even know Eminem, Sharpay is uncertain. Too much 6. Now that Time Ripple appears, we have to make it more honest. Is this also Kurorido's magical creation? It's really magical. Zealand stood aside, not too surprised. Point after all, as a mythologist, Sister Zealand is well informed. Seeing that Sharpay has been guarded, Eminem felt a little more relieved. From now on, he only needs to wait for Celebi to come over. This is not the first time Eminem has dealt with Celebi. Whether it is the one he knows or not, Celebi is a very friendly beast. Point. After returning to the first floor, Zealand took Amu and others to the stairs to the second floor. Unlike the secret and narrow stairs on the first floor of the basement, the stairs to the second floor are in a very conspicuous position. Point. This staircase is winding and folded. From a distance, it looks like a huge hollow pillar going up to the top of the rock more than 10 meters high. While walking, Zealand also curiously asked Eminem whether Sharpay had brought him any trouble. Point. For Eminem, there was nothing he couldn't say, so he told Zealand about what happened in Yanmo City. I see. Time travel occurred while taking the elevator? Indeed, in mysticism, stairs do have the symbolic meaning of traveling through time and space. It seems that elevator, as an extension of stairs, also has a similar image. Zealand has studied mythology for so long, so she naturally understands this. After arriving at the second floor of the Scorched Tower, everyone continued to the third floor without stopping. Sunlight could already be seen at the stairs, because the third floor itself collapsed 150 years ago. At this moment, Zealand's illustrated book rang. Hey, what's wrong? I'm right in the Scorched Tower. What? Let them recover as soon as possible. The signal here is not good. I'll send you a text message. Zealand hurriedly answered a phone call. Point. At the same time, not far outside the Scorched Tower, Kote, the president of Kote Network, hung up the phone angrily. Kote Network is a company that provides internet services in the Sinnoh region. Point. At this time, Kote no longer looked like a business elite. Instead, he was dressed in a smart outfit. He was accompanied by his bodyguard Gwen and several trainers who seemed not to be trifled with. How's it going? Is our information correct, Mr. Kote? A man in black next to him reminded. Point. Kote glared at him angrily, but he still said calmly, thank you Team Flare for reminding me this time. I hope there will be opportunities for cooperation in the future. Kote originally came to attack Celebi secretly. He understood that Celebi would reveal its weaknesses when absorbing Time Ripple. After all, he had tasted the benefits. 18 years ago, he captured the power of Time Ripple from Celebi, which gave him the ability to predict the future. So, from a Pokémon poacher, he became the legendary businessman today. But just before he was about to take action in Yuansu City, someone from the Flash team appeared and reminded him that Zealand was nearby. Of course, Kote didn't want to give up, so he deliberately made it look like there was a malfunction, paralyzing some important networks in Sinnoh, and took the opportunity to send people to test Zealand. Point. After learning that Zealand was really in Yuansu, and even really in the Scorched Tower, Kote had no choice but to give up. Point. The man in black left immediately. If you look carefully, you will find that under the sunglasses in disguise, it is the staff member who was at the door of the burnt tower before. Although he is not even a formal member, and does not even have a code name within the Black organization, in addition to his work in the Quartz Alliance, he does have a second job, an undercover agent belonging to the Flame Team president. Do you want to change the previous arrangement? Gun asked at this time. No need. Let's evacuate directly, immediately. Kote said angrily at this time. Point. The power of Time Ripple that he captured before is now about to be exhausted. If he does not renew it in the past 2 years, his ability to predict the future will expire. In order to maintain his business kingdom and maintain his status as a successful businessman, Kote must calculate Celebi again, but this time with Zilan here. Kote felt that, even if he succeeded in subduing Celebi, there would be nothing he could do to Zilan. He could only calculate the time and place when the next time Ripple would appear in Chianguan continent. It's just that Kote did not dismantle the trap set up for Celebi before. Firstly, it was too late, and secondly, he was confident that after triggering it, there would be no trace left behind, and no one could find it on him. And just when Eminem and others were about to reach the third floor, time, accompanied by a burst of Celebi's exclamation that came from nowhere and sounded far and near, a violent time fluctuation swept through, and at the same time, the stairs that Eminem and others were walking collapsed instantly. It happened that Zilan was still sending messages at this time, asking in detail about the Karte network, but failed to stop it at the first time. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 634. The time difference is a little bigger. Be careful. Zilan's first reaction was to release the bite land shark to catch everyone, but immediately she felt dizzy. This feeling was far beyond the weightlessness of a normal fall. The next moment, Zilan still gritted her teeth and released the bite land shark, but the surroundings began to distort slightly. Zilan only had time to let Bite Lu Shark rescue Zioai, who seemed to be in most need of help. Wait. Eminem also felt a familiar headache, but at this moment, little Evie actually rushed out and ran towards Zioai. Little Ibrahimovic was at Leoka's place before, and now Eminem had no time to complain about what Leoka was doing. But when he saw the bite land shark rushing towards him from the corner of his eye, Eminem felt a little more relieved, and he grabbed Yuanzi beside him with his backhand. Eminem has also realized that this is definitely not a normal fall, otherwise, it is only more than 10 meters high, and it should have hit the ground long ago. Sister Zilan is really right. Whether it is stairs or elevators, they all imply the transformation of time and space. Isn't this coming? After grabbing Sonoko, Amu also saw that Sakura had grabbed Tomoyo in time and was already flying. It's a pity that Eminem can't fly, so he smashed all the way down. Yuanzi exclaimed and hit Amu on the body. Because it was not just a drop in height, it was difficult for Eminem to adjust his posture just now. This was not a matter of physical strength. Eminem even suspected that he had been injured by Time Ripple. Although he would react every time he was close to Time Ripple, it seemed like a special perception. But once Time Ripple broke out, my own negative reactions seemed to be greater than those of ordinary people. I must ask about Celebi when I see him again. You okay? Yuanzi got up quickly. It's okay. Eminem moved around a bit, and after making sure he was not injured, he also sat up. Where is this place? The second floor wasn't like this just now, was it? Yuanzi looked around in confusion at this time. Yuanzi at least remembered that he fell when he was going up from the second floor to the third floor. The surrounding area seems to be in a closed space, but if it is still inside the tower, there are no traces of openings. It is more like being in an underground cave. Eminem stretched his hands to his waist, and immediately his body stiffened. The elf ball is gone again. Could it be that Shipei did it just now? That's not right. Not to mention that Zioka was looking after Shipei, and Eminem could feel it. Indeed, Shipei didn't react at all just now. Fortunately, the old card can still be contacted. My elf ball is gone. Yuanzi also exclaimed at this time. It's okay. It's okay. It's normal. Wait a minute. I'll sort out my thoughts. Eminem comforted Yuanzi while contacting Leoka. Slight jet lag. Well, this time, the jet lag is a little bigger than last time. Leoka's response was vague at first, but then became normal. I don't know why, but time travel doesn't seem to change the situation there. Eminem also realized at this time that it was not Celebi can make the Pokémon in the Pokéball travel together, but the time travel caused by time card will not bring the Pokéball, but it is normal that it does not bring the Pokéball. The only time I traveled with a Pokéball was the time in Girls Gap. That is, I semi-actively entered the turbulence of time and space, and that island has been sealed in the cracks of time for thousands of years, so it is a bit special. Performance. Immediately Eminem thought of other people. After all, I have Leoka's body protection, so it's not a big problem. But Eminem recalled that Sakura had already attracted Tomoyo at that time, and they should be together, and Sakura did not need Pokémon, and had quite high combat power. In addition, Zealand was also with Zooai at the time, and Zealand was also the Bite Land Shark has been released, and Little Eevee has followed. It's not a big problem either. Balls cannot synchronize through time, but the Pokémon that have been released must have traveled together. We should have traveled through time for a while. It doesn't matter. This situation is affected by time ripples. When the ripples completely disperse and the water is completely calm, we will go back. Eminem comforted Yuanzi. Then, should we look for Tomoyo and the others first? Sonoko obviously did not calm down. After knowing that time travel had occurred, and that his Pokeball was missing, he kept holding on to Amu's arm. Maybe look for it. If nothing else, it shouldn't be here. Eminem smacked his lips and said. Eminem's eyesight can see very far in a dark environment. Yuanzi can just barely see some outlines of Eminem through some slightly fluorescent fungi around him, and Eminem has already seen the surroundings clearly. This should indeed be an underground space, and there are some common Pokémon in underground caves. Judging from the surrounding air, it should be connected to the outside, but no one else fell nearby. Why did the position change this time? Can you identify where this is? It should be still the world before, right? Eminem asked Leoka worriedly. The previous times I traveled through time, I didn't change my location. Why did time and space change together this time? The location has not changed. On the basement floor. Leoka's answer was passed back. What? Eminem said in surprise. What's wrong? Yuanzi asked quickly. Ahem. It's nothing. We should still be burning the scorched tower. Eminem also understood a little at this time. Indeed, the position has not changed. Wasn't it fallen for a long time before? So it's at the bottom. Of course, if there is no time travel, it is impossible to fall directly. After all, there are floors on the second and first floors. It looks like this is at least the burnt tower. It just looks a little wider and there aren't so many rocks. Amu said to Yuanzi at this time. I heard from Leoka before that the time difference this time was much bigger than last time. Eminem was worried that the time travel would take too long. But now it seems it shouldn't be too long after all. It should still be at least 150 years old because the place is already dilapidated. It should be over there. Let's go. Let's go up first and see what year it is now. Amu said, leading Yuanzi to the upper level. But now, why are there no stairs? Could it be that the stairs were completely destroyed during the fire, and the one we walked on was rebuilt later? Amu looked at the hole directly above his head, and began to have some bad premonitions. What? Yuanzi asked worriedly. It's okay, I'll take you up first. Amu said, changing his hand to a hug, and hugged Yuanzi horizontally. Fortunately, some of Eminem's commonly used claw cards are still on him, and have not disappeared. I saw Chiope's long legs flashing, and Amu had already jumped back to the first floor with Yuanzi. But when we reached the first floor, we still couldn't see any traces of artificial excavation. But there was sunlight shining in from some holes. Slim Shady. The bad premonition in Eminem's heart got worse, and he didn't even bother to put the garden down. He just carried her and walked out of one of the caves. What he saw outside was a gloomy scene, not to mention inside the tower, there is no sign of human activity even outside. Chapter 635. The troops are divided into 3 groups. Passive. The moment the stairs collapsed, Sakura held on to Tomoyo, and then she wanted to fly back, but there was a confusion around her, and she somehow fell down again. Ouch. It hurts. It hurts. Sakura fell out of nowhere, but in fact the fall was not high. She just screamed out of pain instinctively. Strange. This is. Chais immediately realized that something was not right around him. Normally, the two of them fell back to the second floor of the burnt tower, but in fact, it seems that he is still in the scorched tower, but at this time, there is no scorched dilapidation here. Although there are no traces of artificial carvings, the surroundings are lush and green. Even inside the rock wall, countless vines and vegetation are growing along the holes in the surrounding rock wall, and the sunlight is just right. At this moment, a burst of footsteps came over. When they first saw this scene, Sakura and Tomoyo were also confused for a while. They quickly looked in the direction of the footsteps and saw a group of people dressed in very simple clothes walking in at this time point. After seeing the two of them, a group of people who came in were also surprised. The leader, a long-haired woman, asked with suspicion and caution, "Who are you? Why are you in the holy tower? Are you filming?" Sakura suddenly showed a confused expression, and Chais has already realized something. Sakura. The Toki card. Is it the Toki card? Tomoyo reminded Sakura in a low voice. Could it be Toki card? Sakura also reacted at this time. What are you talking about? The long-haired woman wondered. But at this time, Zyoke said from the bag behind Sakura. Impossible. I've been watching Shippei, and it didn't move at all. But how could that happen? Zishi quickly wanted to ask Zyoke for clarification. How do I know? It should be the real Celebi, right? Zyoke speculated. What are you talking about? You are also here to make a pilgrimage to Rabbi Celebi. You can't enter the holy tower directly. The long-haired woman relaxed a little when they heard about Rabbi Celebi. At this moment, Zyoke was afraid that Tomoyo and Sakura would not believe it, so he urged Tokupe to come out and explain clearly. I saw a Celebi appeared from behind Sakura. Shishirabi has arrived. Celebi is back. Celebi, when? A group of people saw Celebi. After a brief moment of astonishment, they all knelt down and worshipped. Wait, this isn't. Instead, Sakura sat on the wax on the spot. Now she said that this was not Celebi, it was just a card. She wouldn't be beaten, right? At this time, Tomoyo pulled her and signaled not to explain more. Ahem. We are the envoys of Celebi. Are you the people of Celebi? Tomoyo said at this time. The moment the stairs collapsed, Zilan couldn't react immediately because she was replying to a message, but she still held on immediately, released the bite land shark, and caught Zyoai and Zyoai at the critical moment. Little Evie rushed over, then bite the land shark shot up, but soon fell down with a feeling of dizziness, and it doesn't matter if they fall. Zilan and Zyoai can still stand firm when they fall, but I found something was not quite right. Shouldn't he fall back to the second floor of the burnt tower? How come? This place seems to be the second floor of the burnt tower, but there were no signs of burning around at this time, and although the murals looked old, they were not shabby. Sunlight poured in from the holes in the rock wall. From a distance, there were no modern buildings around, but it is surrounded by forest. This is just. When Zilan was stunned, she heard a burst of footsteps coming from downstairs, and at the same time there was a quarrel. I can't hold on to UNZHU anymore. Damn it, can we just withdraw from the Johto area? The offensive of the bullshit alliance is getting stronger and stronger. I heard that overseas, several major alliances have completely controlled the area where humans live. HMPH, don't worry. When our galaxy team completely takes over Chyanguan continent, we will naturally be able to compete with them. Actually, can we also cooperate with Junsha and Joai? I also heard that some senior cadres in the team have also secretly contacted Junsha and Joai to establish a Sinnoh alliance. Shut up. Have you forgotten why we, Team Galaxy, have been exploring the secrets of Pokémon for generations? That's right, we can't retreat yet, even if it's just to buy some time. This bell tower is a semi-natural rock wall and very strong. Let's treat this as a last stronghold. Zio AI had already realized something and quickly looked towards Zealand. But she found that the look on Zealand's face was very strange, as if she was feeling some emotion while remembering point at the same time. Zio AI was also holding little Evie. She also had an artificial keystone on her body, but without Eminem's special ability to cooperate, I'm afraid it wouldn't last long. When Zealand saw a few people coming up, wearing the original Galaxy uniforms that she had seen in old paintings at her grandma's house, she finally determined, when she had traveled to her. Who are you? A trainer from the Alliance. Wait. It's Lee Bite Land Shark. Which side are you from? Team Galaxy's trainer was also shocked when he discovered that there were other people in the towers and didn't even think about escaping, because she could hear that there were actually people upstairs, and these were not the first ones to come point at this time. Zio AI couldn't help but hide behind Zealand and reminded in a low voice, it seems to be Team Galaxy, but it's not the current one. Can you fool it? Zealand was silent for a moment and then said, Master Ganlan asked me to come. Team Leader Ganlan. How is it possible? Team Leader Ganlan is not in charge of Chengdu at all. Wait. Who are you? Team Leader Ganlan. Hey, if you look carefully, she looks a bit like Team Leader Ganlan. Tomoyo and Zealand had gradually figured out what time they were in, based on the behavior of the people who came in point amidst the worries, surprises, and emotions. At least I felt a little reassured point and Eminem at this time. Looking at the deserted snowfield outside, I couldn't help but fall into deep thought point. Not only does the tower behind him now have no trace of artificial excavation at all, it is simply a hollow hill, but also, there is no human habitation visible outside, and even where the forest was originally, there is only a patch of land visible from a distance. Snow. Leoka, you were a little bit wrong. Probably a little bit older. Use your calendar. 1800 years. Slim Shady. Amu, what is this place? After struggling for a long time, Yuanzi finally couldn't help but speak in Eminem's arms. Only then did Eminem react and quickly put her down first. Chapter 636,800s. Amu, what exactly is? Where is this place? Yuanzi couldn't help but ask point after Eminem put her down. He also said with a headache, it should be the burnt tower, right? But now let alone burnt, there isn't even a tower point at this time. Eminem and Yuanzi looked up and found that the hill behind them was a bit higher than the burnt tower they had seen before. But it didn't look like a tower, and it didn't have the legendary top. A big clock point. Then Eminem also asked Leoka what happened to little Ibrahimovic before. Leoka's answer was not beyond Eminem's expectations. In short, when the jet lag was forming, Leoka also became distracted and paid attention to the situation on Eminem's side. And because Leoka was paying attention, little Ibrahimovic followed the outside world and found out that Zio AI was in danger. He rushed out immediately. Leoka was distracted and did not stop him. Point well, 1800 years are just a little bit of old cards. Like all old creatures, it's easy to distract. Therefore, unless Leoka is reminded that there is a fight next to make him concentrate extra hard, Eminem would not dare to walk at a red light when crossing the road. How long will it take for us to go back? Where are Tomoyo and the others? Sonoko said with some worry. Well, let's search in the burnt tower first. They may not be together. Eminem couldn't be sure. Point the last time I traveled back only 2 years. I went back in less than an hour, but that time there wasn't even a time ripple. At most, the ripples were used by the time card. Then Eminem took Yuanzi and searched around this hollow hill. Point I found that the current hill has a large proportion of hollows, but it is not a regular 3 floors above ground and 1 underground floor. It is just that there are cave spaces on the ground at roughly 3 heights, and there is indeed a void underground. This is the result of the natural expansion of the Pokémon living here over the generations. Later generations, probably based on this natural structure, processed it into a tower with 3 floors above ground and 1 floor underground. They also built a tower on the top and placed a big bell, which became the bell tower. It's no wonder that there are disputes over the builder and construction time of the bell tower, because it is true that nature and Pokémon have completed most of the project's point as expected. Tomoyo, Sakura, Zealand, and Xiaoyi are not here, and Eminem is not sure if the four of them are together. Oops. They can't release Pokémon, right? Then, Sonoko began to worry. It doesn't matter, I saw that Xiaoyi must be with Sister Zealand, and Tomoyo is also with Xiaoyi, and Sister Zealand finally released the biting land shark. Eminem comforted point. Even if the four of them are not together, they are at least together in pairs, and with Sakura and Bite Land Shark around, they will be able to fight. No matter what happens, what Eminem is more worried about is little Eevee. Its gene suppression effect should not leave him too far, although Xiaoyi has a temporary, artificial keystone, without Eminem's special ability. There is no test of how long it can last. It seems to be colder than just now. Haha. Yuanzi couldn't help but huffed her hands and then said sheepishly point at this time she still disliked being cold, which seemed a bit too pretentious, which made Yuanzi feel embarrassed point seeing this. Eminem took off his coat and put it on her body. Wait, no, it's too cold. Yuanzi stopped immediately when he saw this. If it was just generally cold, Yuanzi would still feel a little sweet, but now the surrounding temperature is not generally low. This is not the time to be sweet. It doesn't matter. My special ability also strengthens my body. Although the combat power of Eminem's body is not as good as that of Pokémon, it is very adaptable. Normal cold will not damage the body at all. Point before, I wore a jacket to keep out the cold, just to not look so special. Some fighting and fire type trainers would also walk around in unlined clothes in cold weather, but Eminem didn't want to be watched. Point and Yuanzi's clothes are even more beautiful and freezing, just enough to keep out the cold. Now that I have traveled to this place at some time, the nearby forest has disappeared, and the temperature is much lower than in the Alliance era, and I can't bear it. Immediately live. Point after hearing what Eminem said, and seeing that he didn't seem to be forcing himself, Yuanzi didn't continue to refuse. We have to take advantage of the fact that it's still noon and walk south, hoping to see some people. Eminem said after looking south. Point Amu also doesn't know how the population in the Chengdu area was distributed between 800 and 1000 years ago. What is certain is that it was definitely much smaller and sparser than now, and there were no large cities, but generally speaking, there must be people living in the south, in the direction of Yuanzhou City, and further north are the Gobi deserts and mountains. It's just that the climate in this area is colder now, and Eminem is not sure how far south we have to go before there are people. Yuanzi immediately nodded at this time, although it was still a bit cold with Amu's clothes, but seeing that Amu was only wearing single clothes, she didn't want to delay anything because of herself. Point the two of them had just come out of the tower when Eminem suddenly looked towards the north. What's wrong? Yuanzi wondered. Aren't you going south? We found a big treasure. Let's find a temporary substitute first, Amu said, and continued to look to the north. Point after Yuanzi waited for a while, he found a standing dragon-shaped Pokémon running over the snow. He immediately understood that it was Eminem who had used an ability similar to that of a ranger again. Point after the opponent came closer, Yuanzi could see clearly that it was a dark blue animal with a silver belly and face, as if it was wearing a silver helmet, and its claws were covered with long red hair. The most conspicuous thing was, there were a Pokémon with a bulge like a giant blade. This is Styracosaurus? Is there a Styracosaurus in the Chengdu area? Yuanzi asked in surprise. In the Xianguan Mountains, there were originally a small number of Styracosaurus families living there. Among the Pokémon in the smoke area who dared to help the police department, wasn't there a Styracosaurus? It's just that it's usually deep in the Xianguan Mountains, and is almost invisible within the Alliance. It's so cold here now, and there are not many people there yet. Of course, the range of activity of Styracosaurus is much further south than now. Eminem only guessed this step after he had just used the ability of Dragon Ancestor to discover that there was actually a Tephrosaurus. Styracosaurus is a dual element of dragon plus ice, so it is a rare dragon that likes cold climates. Today in the Xianguan continent, it can only be seen deep in the Xianguan Mountains between the Quartz Alliance and the Sinnoh Alliance, and on the ice sheet of Padilla Island. It is said that there are many Styracosaurus. After Eminem found a king level wild Styracosaurus, he immediately used the ability of dragon ancestor, to call it over. This can really be ridden? Yuanzi looked at the giant blade on the back of the Styracosaurus and couldn't help but feel a little frightened. You shouldn't be able to ride it directly. Eminem also looked at the giant blade. If he were to ride it directly, it would be really eye-opening. But I can definitely ride one. Didn't the Zuenran patrolman who dared to help the police department also ride a Styracosaurus to participate in the celebration? It just needs a special saddle. I have it. After studying for a long time, Eminem finally stuck a tree stump on the giant blade behind it so that he could ride it for the time being. Chapter 637 Barbaric Era. Amu. If that was the scorched tower just now, we should have reached the urban area of Yuansu City by now, right? Yuanzi looked around helplessly, and it was still covered in silver. If this continues, Amu will have to think of a way to get a pair of shading glasses for Yuanzi. Well, let's go east first. There is Yuansu Lake over there. If the seeds of Yuansu City have begun to sprout now, people should be in that area. Eminem opened the illustrated book and compared it with the future Yuansu map. Said afterward, point cities don't appear overnight and out of thin air. There will always be one or several places of origin. Unfortunately, when he was in Yuansu City, Eminem didn't go out of his way to look up the history of Yuansu. He could only guess from the topography and fresh water that the original settlement should be at Yuansu Lake in the east point, so Eminem turned all the way to the east. Fortunately, it didn't take long before he really found human traces. First we found a simple road, then we followed the road and saw smoke, and then we found a small village point. If it weren't for the smoke, it would be hard for Eminem to discover this place. It's much farther away from the lake than he imagined. It makes sense if you think about it carefully. At this time, the relationship between humans and Pokémon was not as close as it would be 1,800 years later. Thousands of years ago, the legend said, in the Kanto region, Kagura had just started picking cones from the sacred tree. In the Sinnoh region, Team Galaxy has just begun to explore Pokémon and seek a new era for humans and Pokémon. In the Thingyuan region, which is in the Xianguan continent but across the sea, the goddess of the sanctuary has just gathered the first batch of saints. If they travel across the ocean, some wizards in Carlos and Gala have just begun to seek transformation. In general, 1,000 years ago was probably the time when everyone had just started to train Pokémon directly, and 800 years ago was just the beginning of the Ninja Village era point. At this time, human beings were still very cautious in their lives. Basically in the style of a fantasy world, where monsters were rampant. Point for example, the village in front of Amu is located in a mountain valley some distance away from the northwest of Yuansu Lake. A thick stone wall was built directly at the mountain pass, surrounding the village. If you are by a lake and there is no shelter around you, you will not only be easily missed by Pokémon on land, but also easily attacked by Pokémon from the lake. Point at this moment, Eminem suddenly felt regretful. In this era, would it be too ostentatious for him to ride a king-level Spirosaurus? Now, Amu stuck a tree stump between the back of the Spirosaurus and the giant blade on its back, and then he and Sonoko sat on both sides. Although it is far less comfortable and convenient than the professional Spirosaurus riding saddle of later generations, it is still able to sit on it and avoid being looked at. Point now it's too late for Eminem to keep a low profile. The other party has already discovered Eminem. The person watching from the high wall immediately ran down. Seeing this, Eminem walked even slower to avoid being mistaken for an attack. Point. When they came to the door, the hanging door had been lowered, and an old man walked out surrounded by several young people. Point. Seeing the way these young people still held cold weapons in their hands, Eminem also knew that the other party was on guard, but the old man, who seemed to be the leader, asked enthusiastically, "Excuse me, traveler, are you a ninja, an investigator, or Saint Seiya, Slim, Shady?" The old man's accent sounded strange to Eminem, but fortunately he could still understand it. But this question did sound a bit strange at first glance. Point. Well, ninja is very familiar to Eminem, who comes from Kanto. Investigator is the name given by Team Galaxy to people who capture and investigate Pokémon at the beginning. As for Saint Seiya, this is also the first time Eminem heard about it, although I thought before that some of the legends of Hone seemed familiar to Eminem. In modern times, the Saint Seiya has completely disappeared, at least on the surface point. As for the Johto region, it has been the Kanto region in the east, the Sinnoh region in the north, and the Fingyuan region in the southwest since ancient times. This is the place where the culture of the other three major regions of Xianguan continent is spread, but the local culture is not flourishing point at this time. The people of Johto were the most well informed, and knew a little about the three types of people who control Pokémon. I am neither. After a pause, Amu still wasn't related to anyone. The old man looked surprised when he heard this and said, "Could it be that? Are you also a wizard, Slim Shady?" If someone traveled directly to here, they would probably be confused, right? etc. Eminem suddenly realized, what does he mean? Eminem asked quickly. Are there wizards in the Johto area at this time? Seeing that Eminem didn't ask what a wizard was, the old man quickly said, "Do you know Master Killua? He was also in our village recently." "Ah, Master Killua is back," the old man said, obviously relieved. Amu turned around and saw in the direction of the lake a man wearing a black wizard robe with gold patterns, glasses, and long black hair simply tied into a braid. At this moment, he was gliding over more quickly. While this person was moving quickly, he couldn't see how his legs were moving. When he got closer, Eminem realized that this was not some magical magic, but stepping on an abo monster. The man known as Master Kuro came to Amu in a blink of an eye and took a deep look at Amu. Yuan-Zian Styracosaurus. A normal person should see more of Styrophosaurus, but Amu didn't. I know why, but I always feel that he looks at me more. The next moment, I saw him walking down, patting Abo Monster on the head and saying, "Thank you, that's all." And Abo Monster nodded to him, turned around and snaked away. It seems that he has not subdued this Abo Monster, which has the same ability as the Ranger of later generations. Eminem doesn't even know how far the wizard profession has developed at this time, and whether he can conquer Pokémon. As for the reason why the old village chief was relieved, Eminem could guess it. At this time, the living environment of human beings is harsh. And naturally there are more and worse bad people than 1,000 years later. The old village chief doesn't know whether Eminem is a villain, but for ordinary people, whether he is a ninja, investigator, or Saint Seiya, they are all too dangerous. In contrast, although Kurorido only stayed in the village for a few days, everyone had been getting along with each other for a few days, and knew that he had no ill intentions towards the village. There is even a vague feeling that this wizard can support us. Are you Master Kuro? Could it be Kurorido? Amu looked at the wizard in front of him with strange eyes. "I have a hunch that you will be my friend. My friend, come inside and talk." Kurorido smiled gently at this time. I don't know why, but Eminem feels like he has discovered something in himself. Chapter 638. Kurorido. I don't know exactly how many years before the alliance, I was in a small village near Zuhu Lake. Eminem and Sonoko accepted the invitation of a man who called himself Kurorido and came to his temporary settlement in the village. This village seems to have a house specially designed to receive guests. Maybe it is also specially prepared for ninjas or investigators. There is no bed in the room, or the raised area covered with mats is the bed. The board in the middle of the bed is lifted, and a piece collapses. There is also a fire inside, and an iron pot can be set up. Although what Eminem and Sonoko are wearing now can be considered fancy clothes, but looking at their styles, we can tell that Eminem is very cold resistant, but Sonoko is not. Therefore, as soon as Kurorido entered the house, he gently waved his hand and lit the fire. Eminem couldn't help but be startled when he saw it, casting a spell without a wand. In the magical worldview, this may just be a rare high-end skill, but in the Pokémon world, it doesn't make sense, right? This goes against the fundamental principle of magic. Generally speaking, even those humans with magical talents have only mastered the drive method, and humans do not have the hardware of skill genes. It is a magic wand made of Pokémon materials that provides these hardware, and is by no means just an auxiliary function. Is this magic? Amu asked curiously. That's right. Come up and sit down. Kurorido was wearing a robe, but he looked like he was taking off his shoes and getting on the Kang. He was not as deep as Eminem imagined. At this time, Kurorido released another ecstasy eye. As soon as the ecstasy eye came out, he quickly cleaned up the surrounding area and placed the iron pot on the wooden stand on the fire. Went to fetch water again. In addition, his Pokémon was released from the wand, which made Eminem suspect that his wand also contained cones. Amu and Yuanzi couldn't help but look weird when they saw how hard working this ecstasy eye was. Seeing this, Kurorido explained, "You may not be used to treating Pokémon like this, but this is the result of the 10-year war in the Galar region. It should last for a long time." Eminem couldn't help but look slightly moved after hearing this. 10 years of war? Yuanzi didn't notice anything yet and just repeated the word in confusion. Kurorido also briefly said that, in short, nearly 20 years ago, in the Galar region, the sorcerer population began to seek ways to conquer Pokémon because of wizards, and frantically targeted humans and hunted Pokémon. Kill the wizard. The war between the two sides lasted for 10 years. Not only did the number of humans decrease significantly, but the wizards were also expelled from the mainland of Galar for a time, and could only take refuge in the snowy fields of the Crown and the island of Armor. However, the wizards received help from the 3 sacred birds and King Leiguan of the Crown Snowfield. In addition, the wizards transformed more and more maturely and won the final victory of the war. A large number of ecstasy eyes were forcibly subdued, and unlike the normal collection of Pokémon, these ecstasy eyes were enslaved by wizards. So there are 3 holy birds in the Galar region? Yuanzi asked in surprise. The 3 holy birds in the Galar region have become nothing more than legends in later generations, and are not as common as the 3 holy birds in the Xianguan continent. Yes, it's just a little different from the 3 sacred birds here in Xianguan continent. It can be regarded as a subspecies. As Kurorido said, he threw the tea leaves into the iron pot and boiled it with something like a boiler. Boiled in a potion way. Eminem couldn't help but ask, "Mr. Kurorido, what you just said is, maybe we are not used to treating Pokémon like this." Eminem heard clearly that Kurorido's tone was definitely not, "You are not used to treating Pokémon casually, but you are not used to bullying Pokémon," as if he knew the future people will live in harmony with Pokémon. Hahaha, you are from after 936, right? Kurorido said with a smile, while adding sugar to the pot like crazy. Eminem, Snocko. Eminem and Yuanzi were also surprised that he could actually see this, and at the same time, Leoka, look at me. I'm just too lazy to count. You, how did you find out? Do I still have the aura of time ripple on me? Eminem was curious and became polite. Before I looked at Kurorido's appearance, and it seemed that he was not much different in age from me. Eminem also pretended that he didn't know, so he didn't have any honorific. Now, people have revealed that you will be the one who will be hundreds of years from now, Junior. Eminem was embarrassed to be too presumptuous. You can say that, Kurorido said casually. Eminem felt that there was something in this easygoingness that said, "I'm afraid you won't understand if I talk too much." If the setting of Kurorido in his original local work is followed, he can predict the future and even see through all futures, and time will lose its due meaning in front of him. Even in this world, when Eminem thought that he had created the time card, he was relieved by his reaction. "I haven't created the time card yet," Kurorido said suddenly. As he spoke, he put the sweet tea he had brewed into a not so fine pottery bowl brought by Education Eye and distributed it to Eminem and Yuanzi. "Can you read minds?" Amu asked in surprise. Immediately, Eminem also felt strange. If it was mind reading, no matter what, he would not be unresponsive. "My great moon path has secret authority." Okay. Mind reading or something like that doesn't trigger your own inspiration at all. Isn't this unscientific? Not mysterious? No, I just guessed it from your expression, Kurorido said calmly. Slim Shady, speaking of which, I came here this time just to make time cards. Can I ask for your help? Kurorido made a pleased gesture to several pottery bowls and said to himself, pick up a bowl and sip it. But time card is not on me. Eminem thought that Kurorido was trying to copy himself. After all, copying yourself does not count as copying of Course it won't be on you, otherwise you wouldn't be here. I mean, in 1 month, time ripple will appear in the north, and the elf of time will appear. That is the best template for time card. Kurorido said, time ripples? Amu was stunned for a moment when he heard this, and then he remembered a conclusion that Sister Zulan made before. It seems this should be the time ripple event thousands of years ago. To be precise, it was 936 years ago. From then on, the vitality of the north of Ensu city increased dramatically for hundreds of years, until 1,000 years later, there were still out of time forests left. What do you need me to do? Eminem was nervous, but also a little wary. After all, this guy still has some Slytherin personality. Don't worry, it's not something difficult. Besides, you also need the power of that time ripple to be able to go back, not just the two of you. Chapter 639 Bad Taste and Bad Taste. A month. It takes so long? Amu asked in surprise. Eminem thought that he could go back in just a few days at most. To be precise, 1 month later, we will have the opportunity to face the time ripple, otherwise it will be longer. Kurorido said, and took another sip of sweet tea. But after Amu and Yuanzi took a sip, they both put their bowls further away. So, what do you want me to do? Amu asked cautiously. I want to make a deal with Celebi, and I just want you to be a middleman. Kurorido said calmly. What deal? Eminem asked. Please, let it sleep for 200 to 300 years, and give me the time ripple this time. Kurorido's tone seemed to be that he was not exaggerating at all. Slim Shady. Huh? What do you want to trade for? A sneak attack on Celebi? Amu said, already urging Leoka to be on guard. Don't be nervous. I can feel that you are connected to a greater power, and I can't compete with it. Even I doubt that King Leiguan can't compete with it, but it won't come easily, and this is not us. The point of the conversation. Kurorido indicated that he was not hostile. Eminem continued to look at him without relaxing, and Kurorido said, don't think of me as a barbarian. Since it is a deal, of course I have to pay. Kurorido said, taking out a blue gem. This is. Eminem felt that there was the breath of time on it, but he didn't recognize it. I went through a lot to get the Stone of Dialga. Kurorido said, with a hint of memory. After hearing this, Eminem said with a strange expression, have you seen Dialga? Then, why not use Dialga as the template for the time card? In Eminem's impression, Dialga is the owner of the God's throne. It's just that the two dragons of time and space are sleeping in separate spaces, so the priesthood will fall on Celebi. No, this is different. Kurorido shook his head at this time. Kurorido paused and then added, and I also need time ripple as the material for time card. Failure to absorb time ripple will make Celebi weak for 200 to 300 years time, but I think this will be enough to make up for it. Of course, it's just a little make up, but I can neither promise for Celebi, nor can I promise anything. After all, I don't even know whether I recognize Celebi who is here this time. Eminem said, shaking his head. You'll know this time ripple is huge. Kurorido said in a matter-of-fact tone. Slim Shady? Eminem didn't understand the logical relationship between his words and his own. There are countless Celebi in the world. It can also be said that there is only one Celebi. They are themselves at different times, or their view of time and space is different from ours. Their timeline is different from ours. Going to each time point is like entering a room. Calming downtime ripple is also difficult for Celebi, and after absorbing time ripple, Celebi will also grow, so the weaker the time ripple in the room, the more likely it will be go in first. The bigger the time ripple is, the later you go in. Kurorido explained. Inferring from this, the time ripple this time is large enough, and the relatively old Celebi is here, so the probability of knowing Eminem is naturally very high. This also explains Eminem's previous doubts, why Celebi and Maiden's Gap didn't recognize him, and in the case of Celebi's Colossus, the other party knew him, but it wasn't because of the Maiden's Gap incident. 1. Celebi. But I have seen 2 Celebi appear at the same time. Amu asked doubtfully at this time. So, there are countless Celebi. As long as you open the door between the rooms, you can have past, future, and present selves walking into the same room. Kurorido said then, I bought myself another bowl of sweet tea. The loss of time ripple will cause Celebi to sleep. Eminem vaguely remembered that in the theatrical version, if time ripple is taken away, Celebi will indeed weaken. Yes, but for Celebi, sleeping is just a temporary loss at a point in time, and it's not a big deal. Like all profiteers, Kurorido belittled the other party's efforts. If you just want to communicate, I can give it a try, but what will you do if you don't meet me? After Eminem agreed, he asked seriously, you can trade without a middleman, right? And I'm pretty strong. Although the time ripple is huge this time, Celebi is not good at fighting after all. Kurorido smiled, already looking less than eye-level. Slim Shady. Seeing that he said it so directly, Eminem also said, but, in this case, I will appear here. I'm afraid it won't be a good thing for you. If a fight really breaks out, Eminem will definitely be with Celebi. There is no special reason. After all, one side is a cute mythical beast, and the other side is a gloomy old wizard. Besides, that was Celebi. It's all posted with Eminem. No, when I saw you, I knew my time card must have been successful. Kurorido was not in a hurry. Slim Shady. Eminem really can't refute it. By the way, speaking of it, if you don't use time ripple, I'm afraid you will have to stay for several years, and maybe you will be a family of 3 when you go back. Kurorido said, looking at Sonoko again. 3 people. Yuanzi was stunned when he heard this, and then suddenly thought of something. What 3 people? You guy, you still have 3 people. In this day and age, if you get used to it, you can get married at your age in the next 2 years. Kurorido said calmly. However, Eminem saw through decisively that he was tempting himself, so he said calmly, that's our business, don't worry about it. Maybe there will be more than 3 people. Haha, want to threaten me? Will I take your advice? Kurorido just shrugged, but what Eminem didn't notice was that Sonoko had lowered his head deeply, his pupils were trembling, and his brain was obviously running at high speed, thinking, so, how about this month? As a reward, I can teach you some magic. I think even after 936 years, my magic will not be outdated. Kurorido paused and said, if you don't succeed after a month, I also believe that you will be the key to the success of Shippei, then you can study with me for a longer time. You can give yourself a wizard name. How about Tom Riddle? Don't want to talk to me. If you have a last name, you can also change it. Tom Riddle. Slim Shady. Could it be Voldemort is myself? This time, Eminem's pupils were trembling, and he nervously touched his nose, but at this moment, Kurorido laughed heartily. Ha ha ha, do you really believe it? Don't worry, that's not your name, Slim Shady. Seeing Kurorido smiling happily, Eminem felt that his taste was as bad as his taste, and it also shows that the current Kurorido is really able to see into the future to a certain extent. He even knew about Voldemort. Chapter 640 Era. Just as Eminem and Kurorido were talking about what would happen a month later, there was a sudden commotion outside. Gerber, Halberd. When Eminem came out, he found several children who were curiously and fearfully surrounding the Spirosaurus he had brought. Not only did they not dare to approach it at all, but there were also adults around, so they quickly pulled them back. Spirosaurus screamed twice, and they were even more frightened. At this time, Eminem came out. The old village chief who had just arrived said to Eminem, I'm sorry, guest, the children are a little too unruly. No, it's okay for them to get close to the Styracosaurus. A world where humans and Pokémon are interdependent will definitely come. Amu looked around at this time and found the bravest child. His eyes were still there. He was eager to try, so he waved to him. The boy's parents saw this, and although they were worried, they hesitantly let him go. The boy immediately walked over to Eminem. May I have your name? My name is Asin. The boy said loudly. It's called Styrofossa. It's a dragon type and ice type Pokémon. Say hello to it. Eminem introduced Asin. Hello, my name is Asin, and I am human. Asin looked up at Styracosaurus, but when he saw its face, that looked like an iron mask, he lowered his head in fear. Spirited Spinosaurus then gave a howl bad sound twice with disdain. Sensing the disdain of Styracophora, Eminem stopped letting it shake hands with Asin. Seeing that Eminem was also friendly, the old village chief and other villagers felt more relieved, but only because Eminem, a powerful ninja and investigator, looked harmless, instead of really believing what he said about an era where people and Pokémon coexisted harmoniously. After everyone dispersed, Eminem also patted Styracosaurus, feeling that he was too serious. However, the feedback he received was that it was indeed very unhappy. Being surrounded by a group of kids from a strange and weak race, Eminem suddenly realized something at this time. Kurorido came out at this time, looked at Eminem and reminded, humans and Pokémon live in harmony? This is not a matter of time. These villagers can become trainers, as long as they break through their inner fears of Kuro. Rido obviously also knows the future word trainer, but Amu still had confusion on his face. Do you think that the reason why the relationship between humans and Pokémon today is completely different from that of 800 or 900 years ago is not just because humans are unilaterally wary of Pokémon? Ordinary people today are unilaterally wary of Pokémon. If you try to overcome fear, you will lose your life in the wild. Reasonable fear is not a negative emotion in life, but the protection of the self. Kurorido emphasized at this time. Eminem also realized at this time that it was definitely not human beings who could pierce the window paper of Pokémon are actually very friendly and everyone could happily live in the same world in the same dream, and it's true that today's Pokémon are not friendly to humans. But why is this happening? Amu asked doubtfully. From the perspective of people now, what should be questioned is why it became what it will be in the future. Kurorido shrugged. Then, what do you think? Eminem felt that Kurorido should know. I'm not omniscient or omnipotent, Kurorido said, but you all know Tom. Eminem looked at Kurorido in confusion. The era when the Dark Lord appeared was not that far from now. Would you like sweet tea? Kurorido asked, changing the subject. Slim Shady, watching him change the subject. Eminem now doubts that Kurorido's ability to foresee the future is not linear. Maybe he just foresees a few time periods, or through some means, see the future in stages. Of course, it doesn't rule out that he didn't want to say it. Just like Leoka must also know that, although he does not always appear in the surface world, after all, for him, this is just something that happens in a little time. He should be able to tell something if he appears a few times occasionally, but ask it also has no answers. Forget it, I'm not used to drinking it. Let's talk about magic. Eminem refused Kurorido's sweet tea. You are really impatient. Okay, let's sit back. Kurorido happily returned to this familiar topic. Kurorido and Eminem sat back again. Yuanzi was also very interested at this time, but Kurorido directly poured cold water on him and said, learning magic is different from being a trainer. Talent is a necessity. I mean the original meaning of talent, not something like effort. Talent, haha, hard work is not a talent, it's just fooling some guys who have no talent. First of all, you are indeed very talented. The first time I saw you, I could feel that your spirituality was about to burst out. But this lovely lady next to you is such a pity. You can tell me what you want to hear. Kurorido's words undoubtedly concluded that Sinoko did not have any talent in this area. But if this is the case, Yuanzi will not give up immediately. Well, let me think about it. Where should I start? Sorry, I'm not good at giving such a basic explanation. So, by the way, first of all, you must know that magic is divided into black magic and white magic. We can ignore the latter. Let's talk about the main ones. As soon as Kurorido opened his mouth, he became an old black magician. Slim Shady, that you can also talk about white magic. Eminem said weakly. Hearing this, Kurorido shook his head disdainfully and said, white magic is basically a Pokemon's ability to strengthen itself. This is something that in your era, even wizards have not been able to completely transform. Root cause. From Kurorido's explanation, Eminem gradually understood the biggest problem with white magic is that after they are used, they are strengthened on oneself. For example, if Sioran uses Sword Dance with a certain Pokemon, the physical attack effect is on Sioran. This is why during the game, Eminem never saw him use this type of skill once. Point from a competition perspective, it's really useless. Even from the perspective of wild fighting, only defensive abilities are useful. Just like in the original work, you can only fight if you know black magic. The school says that it does not teach black magic, but both students and graduated adult wizards basically know black magic and have used black magic. You are not allowed to use black magic as, like you are not allowed to curse, not even on the internet. It is correct, but only correct point, as long as there are no consequences or any truly forbidden curses are used, no one will be punished for using black magic. Just like when you are in school, you will only be punished if you are caught by the teacher swearing, and if you divide it this way, Eminem has never seen Xiaolang use white magic. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 641 Black Magic. Dark magic is divided into jinx, poison, curse, and curse. But when I first used black magic, I didn't divide them into these. I just simply used Pokémon skills. But after mastering it proficiently, after a certain skill, there will be a difference between the three. Eminem also heard that the three kinds of black magic did not correspond to the three types of Pokémon skills, but the awakening directions of the three Pokémon skills. Simply using unawakened skills does not fall into any category. Point among them, evil curse refers to the awakening in the direction of increasing damage. Poison curse refers to the awakening in the direction of increasing additional effects. And curse is the most sinister, usually a skill that is awakened specifically to cause permanent damage. Of course, white magic is not without its merits. If it can really be mastered to the extent of awakening, it may have some effect on some special occasions. Kuro Rido's evaluation of white magic is still so low, but the same seems to be true for competitions. If it can be awakened to normally applied to Pokémon and its effect is strengthened, it will still be valuable. Point in the next few days, Eminem learned magic from Kuro Rido. Kuro Rido is indeed not good at teaching from scratch. Fortunately, Eminem's spirituality and magic really match well. If Eminem was a hermit, I'm afraid it would be even better. In addition, Eminem discovered that maybe it's because the magic in this world relies on Pokémon. Therefore, when it comes to mastering magic, Eminem prefers the three systems of grass system, ground system and poison system, followed naturally by fairy system, ghost system and evil system. Point in addition, in terms of white magic, Eminem found that he has a unique advantage. That is, you can use old cards to cast spells. To say it is strong, it is indeed very strong, but to say it is useful, this does allow Eminem to set up a shield for himself, which is somewhat useful, but it doesn't seem to make any difference if the old card is used to set it up. Point as for strengthening one's own abilities, Eminem feels that even after awakening to who knows how many levels of Dragon Dance, it is still difficult for him to fight powerful Pokémon. It will be easier for Eminem to fight Pokémon that he can fight with melee. It can only be said that there is more subjective initiative. Of course, when Eminem learns magic, he doesn't really want to be a wizard, but he wants to develop awakening skills on his own, and then use the ability of the trainer to directly teach Pokémon, which is more efficient. Sonoko has almost given up. As Kuro Rido said, learning magic is different from future trainers and Pokémon training. Point no talent means no talent. Time passed day by day, and on this day, outside Hupin village, there was a sudden noise. Point Amu and Yuanzi also came out of the room at this time. The village chief also arranged a temporary residence for the two of them. Although it is simple, it is better than nothing. Everyone is so simple. What's wrong? Eminem called out to an elder sister who was taking her children back to the house. She felt that something was wrong. The envoy of the angry dragon sect is here. After the eldest sister finished speaking, she quickly went home and closed the door. What is the raging dragon cult? Amu wondered. I heard in ancient times, many bad people would take advantage of ordinary people's ignorance of Pokémon to do evil things. Yuanzi said to Eminem at this time point. Although it may not be accurate, these are still taught in schools, but Eminem never went to school. Eminem still doesn't know what this raging dragon cult is, but judging from everyone's reactions and Yuanzi's guess, he is not a good person after all. Chloro. Rido doesn't know what he's doing today. I'm going to take a look at the little halberd spine, Eminem said, directly calling the halberd spine dragon over. I'll go to. Yuanzi said with a sense of justice. After thinking about it for a moment, Eminem nodded and asked Yuanzi to come up too, let alone Leo Cat. Eminem estimated that just the king level small halberd spine would be enough of a deterrent. Little Gigi is also the only king level wild Pokémon that Eminem has seen since he traveled to 936 years ago. Otherwise, Eminem would not have kept it by his side as a guard point in terms of the scope of dragon ancestor. This king rate seems a bit low. After all, in terms of the surrounding environment, this place should be considered a very wild wilderness, unlike the Yuansu area in later generations. There are no people here. As a quasi-god, Spirosaurus wants to become a king in the wild. Compared with other Pokémon, it is very easy, because the natural race value is 600. Even if the growth value of wild Pokémon is generally lower, when the growth level reaches level 80, the growth value is generally only 30%. If it is a Pokémon trained by a trainer, it should be at least 35%. Those with the best qualifications can reach 40%. However, with the blessing of a racial value of up to 600 points, he can still easily reach the king level at level 80. As for Pokémon with a racial value of 400 or 500, many of them cannot reach the king level at full level and require additional awakening attributes and characteristics. That's why quasi-god also has the word god. And in this here and now, Eminem only discovered a king level person like Zyogigi. However, Eminem is not sure whether this is because Yuansu is now poorer than it was more than 900 years ago, so there are fewer Pokémon in general, or whether there is some era-related reason. After all, dragon ancestor is only sensitive to dragons, and Eminem doesn't have time to go to the sea to check and verify it with sea god. Amu and Yuanzi rode Zyogigi to the entrance of the village and found that the old village chief and the young men in the village were at the entrance of the village, confronting several guys dressed in fancy clothes at the same time. Amu could also see that the people in the village were generally very timid and did not even dare to use cold weapons. They just hid here as a limited shock. The old village chief seemed to be negotiating with the other party. Seeing Amu coming out, the people in the village showed hopeful looks. Naturally, they did not stop him, but they did not dare to say anything. When they saw a Styrosaurus coming out with two humans sitting on its back, one on the left and one on the right, the originally arrogant members of the Raging Dragon cult suddenly became agitated. Several members of the Raging Dragon sect were dressed in flashy clothes. The leader of the group wore blue as the main color, while the others wore red as the main color, as if they were exaggerating the Gyarados style and Carp style. Of course, Eminem and Yuanzi's style of painting is even more novel now. The people in the village also prepared a change of clothes for them, but just in time for it today, Eminem and Yuanzi changed back to modern clothes. HMPH. No wonder the old guy dares to bargain. It turns out there is someone in the village. Is this a ninja or an investigator? The little blue man stared at Amu and Yuanzi and said with a hint of fear, "Don't get me wrong, Mr. Leixi, these two wizards are just passing by, and we have always respected the Raging Dragon sect." Ha. Respect the Raging Dragon cult? Shouldn't you respect the great Raging Dragon god? I think you guys are just telling the truth. You offered some food and a girl but refused, and you have no respect for the Raging Dragon god. At this time, the little blue man Leixi attacked. Eminem frowned and said, "What is the Raging Dragon god? Gyarados? Where is it?" The range of Amu's dragon ancestor cannot cover the entire Yuansu Lake. Here, it can only spread to a small part of the western part of Yuansu Lake. However, in this part, no violent above the heaven leaking level has been found. Carp dragon, bold. What kind of wizard are you passing by? I advise you not to mind your own business. The Raging Dragon god is a real dragon god who can soar into the clouds. Leixi threatened in an evil way, but he did not dare to get close. New point when he heard that he could soar the clouds and ride the mist. Eminem estimated that even the current Gyarados should be at the king level of being able to soar the clouds and ride the mist, so he became more interested and asked, "Where are they? Can you call some over?" Chapter 642 Raging Dragon Cult. Damn it, are you looking down on us? Don't think that an ice king dragon is anything special. The raging dragon god is a real god. Leixi scolded Eminem hysterically at this time. Ice Kingosaurus? What's your country name for it? This is Styracosaurus. Amu corrected point. As for the racial value gap between Gyarados and Spirosaurus, they really don't know, and they don't even know what racial value is for these later statistical concepts. The divisions between innate abilities and acquired growth are all vague to humans today. We can only roughly judge based on experience which Pokémon is generally stronger and which Pokémon is stronger. Dreams are generally not that strong. Caught. Death. As Leixi said, he took out an elf ball that could still be seen as a cone material, pulled off the stem part of it, and immediately saw a Gyarados being released. Eminem was slightly surprised. In this era, a Gyarados could be considered a trainer with great potential. Of course, this Gyarados is definitely not the angry dragon god, otherwise it would be too low level. Eminem used Dragon Ancestor to sense it and found that it was only at a level of more than 40 levels. The other three subordinates obviously didn't know what a fair Pokémon duel was, and each released a Seathorn dragon. They were all in their 30s and barely evolved. "You guys cover from behind," Leixi said, guiding his Gyarados to attack the Spirosaurus. At the beginning, this Gyarados was obviously a little timid. Facing the king level Spirosaurus, it shrank away, and the 3C Spinosaurus did not dare to spray water at all, and Eminem seemed careless and didn't get off the back of Styrosaurus right away. Just when Leixi urged Gyarados to directly attack the opponent's wizard, Gyarados finally moved. "Be careful." The old village chief couldn't help but exclaimed, but was stared at by old Lei with cruel eyes, and he was frightened to stop. And at this time, bite him to pieces. Just hiccup. Lei almost didn't come up with a breath. Even if the opponent's Ice King dragon directly showed its power and defeated his own raging dragon, he had never imagined it. But now, I saw that the angry dragon that I had finally conquered actually rushed over and then started to stick to each other. Under Zyogge's disdainful gaze, this Gyarados used the 3 green horns on its head to rub against Eminem's palm. Its eyes, which were always violent, now became docile. That's right, it's exactly the effect of Dragon Ancestor. If it were a Pokémon duel, Eminem would be too shy not to use the effects of Dragon Ancestor or Sea God to command the opponent's Pokémon. But now, I saw 3 Seathorn dragons that were originally standing on the ground with their tails. At this time, they all bent down in the direction of Mew, as if they were worshipping. The Seathorn dragon is also a dragon species. Several people from the Raging Dragon cult were horrified when they saw this, and hurriedly tried to get the Pokémon back, but it was to no avail. Today's Pokeball technology is already very crude, and these Pokémon have no bond with them. They are not even tamed by them. Instead, they are ordered by the Raging Dragon god to follow these people. Usually, the wrathful dragon cult extorts money from several nearby villages in the name of the wrathful dragon god, and then provides the wrathful dragon god with the portion that the real Gyarados can eat. It is for their own enjoyment. What Yuanzi said is that the knowledge taught in school is not wrong. In this era, there are a lot of scoundrels who bully other people in the name of powerful Pokémon to get something for nothing, and are arrogant and lewd. If it were in the Kanto area, it would be the Warring States period, and the fights between each other would be even more ferocious than here. In contrast, the Sinnoh region and the area controlled by Team Galaxy are actually the best places now, because Team Galaxy is really exploring the symbiosis between humans and Pokémon. Of course, in modern schools, there is no talk about Pokémon in the past were not as friendly as they are now. If people from the Ordinary Alliance era really traveled through thousands of years and went back to the past, they would probably suffer a big loss at the beginning, and the scene where Amuling and their Pokémon worship directly to him undoubtedly greatly stimulated the guys of the Raging Dragon cult. "What kind of witchcraft are you doing?" Lei said warily. "This is called bondage. Even if you tell me you don't understand, Amu said confidently. Koparis. It was only then that the villagers realized that this Amu seemed to be much stronger than the higher-ups of the Raging Dragon sect. So, will he be able to defeat the evil dragon? Amu suddenly looked in the direction of Yuan's Lake. Eminem can now feel the aura of the king-level Gyarados. The opponent is rapidly approaching here, and, seeing Eminem looking over here, Lei was nervous at first, and then, he also spotted the black shadow flying in the sky, and couldn't help but be overjoyed. Ha ha ha. The great raging dragon god is here, and you rebels are all doomed. I will definitely kill you all. Hehe. Lei said, and sneered at the villagers. The old village chief and other villagers also turned pale. But Eminem looked weird at this moment. Seeing that Eminem didn't answer, Lei thought that Eminem had been frightened, and laughed and said, "Kit, if you don't kneel down and beg for mercy, offer your female companion and the Ice King Dragon, I might beg for mercy in front of the Raging Dragon God. Spare your life." In fact, he didn't know why the angry dragon god came, and he even thought in his mind, could it be that I really have a divine favor? Eminem looked at him and curled his lips. The villains of this era really seemed like they came from an old school cool novel and walked into the wrong set. It can be seen that the human nature of this world is not inherently kind and gentle. It is only in the past few hundred years that humans have truly begun to combine and coexist with Pokémon, and productivity has increased by leaps and bounds, that the glory of human nature has shone brighter. Nowadays, mankind is in a precarious situation, which is equivalent to a world without magic and fighting spirit, and where monsters are rampant. Naturally, the villains are very happy. Hey, bastard, I've been putting up with you for a long time. Zyogigi, freeze that angry dragon god for me. Yuanzi said angrily at this time. Gigisaurus is full of fighting spirit. It's really not afraid of this wrathful dragon god. At this time, Eminem stopped him and said, "Wait a minute, it's Kurorido." What? Yuanzi didn't understand. But I understood immediately. After flying closer, I could see a person standing on top of this raging dragon god. Chapter 643 Historical Process. Under Lei's dumbfounded gaze, the raging dragon god did indeed arrive, but, at the same time, there was another person above the head of the angry dragon god. I saw this man wearing a black robe with golden lines on the front. His long black hair was simply tied into a braid. He wore glasses, and had a smile. If it wasn't Kurorido, who was it? At this time, the raging dragon god fell, and Kurorido also jumped down. I asked why one of the wind, rain, thunder and lightning is missing. It turns out he delivered it to me. After seeing the thunder god envoy, Kurorido said with a smile and enthusiasm, "You, who are you?" Lei looked at the wrathful dragon god and couldn't help but feel a little confused. He couldn't even think straight. He didn't really regard this angry dragon as a god. After all, how could he not know whether it was a pretense or not? It's just that they always felt that the strength of this old dragon was due to the dominance of UNZHU Lake, and he could naturally be called a god. That's why they founded the Raging Dragon sect and licked the old dragon to make him feel comfortable. Use its big flag. However, now I see that this terrifyingly powerful angry dragon is actually used as a mount for someone. I'm just a wizard passing by. By the way, your three brothers are already on their way, so don't keep them waiting. Kurorido quickly and thoughtfully urged. Lei's scalp suddenly exploded, and he found that the wrathful dragon god was glaring at him. Rare, go, quickly, violent, before Lei could say anything about begging for mercy. Kurorido urged Gyarados again. I saw this Gyarados roaring, flying into the sky, and swooping towards Lei and his three men. After a roll, it hurriedly flew away, leaving only a few screams. When Yuanzi saw this scene, he couldn't help being frightened, and asked with some worry, "Where will they go?" They usually tell the angry dragon to help it raise exquisite food, but in fact, most of the people who exploit the surrounding villages go into their own pockets to satisfy their own selfish desires. Then naturally the angry dragon will eat them as compensation. Kurorido said calmly. When Yuanzi heard this, his face couldn't help but look ugly. Gyarados eats people. This is undoubtedly something unimaginable in modern times. Not only is the cruelty of Pokémon, but also In modern times, no matter how evil people are, since they have been caught, most of them will be sent to Junsha and fed directly to Gyarados, as expected. Yuanzi still can't get used to it, but Eminem didn't think much about it. After all, times have changed. If in modern times, someone feeds evil people to Pokémon, they must be evil people, and they are mentally ill evil people. But also before 936 years ago, it was impossible to expect everyone to deal with problems like modern people. Just like Kurorido, he has no intention of joking at all. It is obviously not to scare anyone, but he has really given the angry dragon god a feast. When the people in the village saw this, they were not afraid at all, or rather, their fear was overtaken by excitement. And they all cheered excitedly, thanking Kurorido for being such a good person. I just happened to be passing by. Hahaha, you don't have to thank me. Even if I didn't meet them, Mr. Eminem would have dealt with them this time, right? Kurorido said modestly. Everyone has not forgotten Eminem, and now they thanked Eminem and Yuanzi, two great benefactors. If it were normal times, Yuanzi would still be very interested in this kind of occasion, but now Yuanzi is still feeling unwell, so she just managed to smile. The raging dragon cult that caused harm around Unzhu Lake was eliminated, and the surrounding villages rejoiced, but for Kurorido, it was just a small matter. Perhaps, as he said, he was just passing by. In fact, it won't be long before there will be new members of this religion and that gang, occupying and exploiting this place. Kurorido was in the room, looked at the still beaming villagers outside, and then sighed. One sentence. But this tone, it sounded like a mockery of ants, but no sympathy could be heard. If he hadn't just solved the raging dragon cult, Yuanzi would definitely think of him as an insensitive person. And Eminem can feel that Kurorido is not insensitive, but full of emotions. But unkind is really unkind. Although he would take off his shoes and get on the Kang as soon as he entered the house, and he would make unpleasant sweet tea that was so sweet that it would knock your teeth. But in his heart, Kurorido was not a person who would take ordinary people seriously. When Eminem saw Yuanzi's reaction, he knew that she was sentimental, although this sentimentality has no effect. It is meaningful in itself that humans will hurt others. By the way, in another 100 or 200 years, Kanto will enter the era of ninja villages, right? I really don't know what other areas will be like at that time. Eminem mentioned this deliberately. The ninja village system was formed in Kanto 800 years ago. At the same time, new orders will emerge in various places. Ancient countries that control some of the power of Pokémon will spring up like mushrooms after a spring rain, and will be established at that time. Sonoko said, and his face became brighter. However, Yuanzi has only taken a history class, and his knowledge is not very good. He cannot tell a specific year or the order of this country. He can use like mushrooms after a rain, and he has exhausted all his cultural qualities. But at least Yuanzi knows that compared to the current dark age, human society will be more orderly. It's just that for ordinary people, it's still a dire straits. After all, the ancient country was an era when the Pokémon aristocrats monopolized the power of Pokémon. Even the ninja village is not a kind of aristocratic group. Kurorido sipped the sweet tea he had just brewed and poured cold water on it. Sure enough, the garden became gloomy again. When Eminem saw this, he couldn't help but stare at this guy. This must be intentional. In comparison, Team Galaxy in the Sinnoh region has more of a spark of hope. Sinnoh during this period should be the most promising place for ordinary people. Kurorido added at this time one sentence. Is that so? Yuanzi was stunned when he heard this, and then began to examine himself. Which history class was this taught in? When he fell asleep, of course. Eminem suspected it should not be taught in history classes. After all, Galaxy Team is now a violent group, and it is a violent group that has not been wiped out. Even if it had made any contributions, it would not be included in history classes. You didn't subdue that Gyarados just now, did you? Eminem interrupted. Eminem could tell that the method just now was similar to that of a patroller, or similar to the methods of Dragon Ancestor and God of the Sea. That's right, Parcel Tongue. You shouldn't be interested, right? Crowley Rideau answered honestly. Parseltongue can communicate with all snake Pokémon and has a certain giving orders effect to snake Pokémon. Of course, Eminem is completely uninterested in this because almost all snake Pokémon are dragons, and most of the dragons are not snake Pokémon. My dragon ancestor is the superior ability of Parseltongue. Chapter 644 6 spells. Wand making? Why should I learn this? Amu looked at Kuro Rideau in confusion. There are still 7 days left until Kuro Rideau's estimated time for the time ripple to appear. In the past 3 weeks, Eminem has learned a lot of magic theories from Kuro Rideau, but there will definitely not be enough time to teach them if they are to a specific point. And just today, Kuro Rideau suddenly said that he would teach Eminem how to make a wand. Of course it's to use magic. Kuro Rideau said matter of factly. Ah. You, a fake? Amu looked at Kuro Rideau in confusion. Modern wizards are seeking transformation and replacing wands with Pokémon, and Eminem is a pure trainer. He originally only regarded magic as a training method. Kuro Rideau also knew this, but now he actually wants to teaching Eminem how to make a wand. I just told you before that I didn't have time to teach you about wizards of various schools, general spellcasting methods, and specific things. However, there are 6 spells that magicians can really use on their own. If you want to use them in the future, there is a wand. Maybe it would be better, Kuro Rideau said, if, maybe. Eminem is still not sure whether Kuro Rideau can see the future. Use it yourself? Amu looked interested when he heard this. Well, so the little wolf you've seen seems to be a wizard trainer, but he still has a sword-shaped wand, right? Kuro Rideau said matter of factly. Slim Shady, this time my nose I lang again. Eminem is even more confused about the way he sees the future. What? 6 spells? Eminem also became interested in this. They are all spells ended that began at the beginning of magic. God calling gods and Pokémonses that sprouted in the distant past. Spiritual fire and Horcruxes that were born in the present, and the ones that will the Philosopher's Stone that blooms in the future. Crowley Rideau named 6 kinds of magic that were familiar to Eminem. Philosopher's Stone. Do you know alchemy well? Amu looked at Kuro Rideau in confusion. Eminem remembers that according to Harry Potter's worldview, the Philosopher's Stone was made by an old alchemist who was hundreds of years old, but he didn't remember his name. Could it be that, after seeing the future, Kuro Rideau could directly copy the method of refining the magic stone? You copied it a bit harshly, understand? A little. Crowley Rideau nodded. Eminem asked, even more puzzled. You can refine the Philosopher's Stone with just a little knowledge. Are you modest, Eminem? Always feels like, I didn't say I could practice. I'm just telling you, you didn't mistakenly think that I was going to teach you, right? Crowley Rideau put down his tea bowl, looking surprised. Slim Shady, before Eminem was about to show off his broken tea, Kuro Rideau made a calm gesture and changed his words. Okay, don't use this expression. I still know the other ones. The first is, all spells end. This should be the original origin of magic, that is, to invalidate Pokémon skills. The first wizard did this first. Kuro Rideau continued, invalidate Pokémon skills? Eminem repeated, as if he had thought of something. Well, since magic is a Pokémon skill, then, the effect of, all spells are ended, is very reasonable, and Eminem has some vague associations with it. That's right, just as you think. The future trainer's hold on can also be seen as having the same origin as, all curses are ended. Kuro Rideau nodded. Slim Shady, put it this way, all curses are ended, is a bit low-key, and it's also a wandless version. Eminem added, the sanctuaries in the Hone region also have similar abilities. What they usually say is, aren't you still alive? Kuro Rideau gave another example. Slim Shady, now Eminem feels that the saying all curses will end is much better. Calling God Guard and Poke Witch are both magics that were born in more ancient times. Please, wait a moment. More ancient? How ancient is it? Eminem couldn't help but interrupt. About 2,000 years ago, I mean starting from me. Kuro Rideau said, there were wizards at that time. Eminem was a little confused about this. Well, good question. We may not necessarily call them wizards. Counting from your point of view, in the past few years in the Kalas region, products of giant civilizations from 3000 years ago were unearthed. It is speculated that they are far superior in various technologies, including the production of Pokeballs. Now, do you know? Kurorido turned to another thing point. The archaeological results in the Kalas region pushed the era of symbiosis between humans and Pokémon forward a lot, sparking a craze for ancient civilizations everywhere. Indeed, there is a view now that in an older era, humans once mastered technology that was better than now in at least some aspects, and even the relationship with Pokémon was already what it is today, but later because of a certain due to some reasons, there was a great recession, and 1,000 years ago it was a stage of recovery. Trainers have this situation, and wizards can certainly have it too. Seeing Eminem's understanding, Kurorido continued, calling God Guard can be seen as summoning a substitute of oneself, and this power will appear in a form similar to a certain Pokémon ninja in the system. Something similar to this is the power of the Kato clan, which you should be familiar with. In addition, there are also some people who are getting infinitely close to this power in another way. Pokémon Wizard can be regarded as a stable transformation technique for oneself. As the name suggests, it allows the wizard to turn himself into a Pokémon. For wizards, one must have a thorough grasp of transformation technique before they can try it. But in your time, someone in the Alola region is using another method to simulate this phenomenon. Eminem's expression changed when he heard this, and he thought of the Kamen Rider belt. Of course, those who are more similar to this are the saints in the Hone region, but they are different from Pokémon wizards. They are more like combining Pokémon with humans. An Pokémon wizard is the closest to turning humans into Pokémon completely, and it is also the most dangerous. At that time, wizards didn't even have wands. Unlike today, which uses the power of Pokémon to cast spells, it was more inclined to Yuling himself gets closer to the Pokémon. Kurorido emphasized. Eminem also believes that this is difficult. The sequence 5, Druid of Mother Path, has the signature ability to transform into a bear. In this world, 9 times out of 10, it will turn into a bear Pokémon, not to mention that it is equivalent to sequence 5, at least it is similar in some aspects. Chapter 645 The 7th type. It's actually easier for wizards to learn Pokémon Wizard now, because they can subdue a variety monster as a reference. Kurorido said, after the change, how many levels does it count? Does it mean to what extent it has grown? Amu asked curiously, fearing that Kurorido didn't understand the concept of level using your statistics. The harder it is to transform a Pokémon, the lower its level will be after transformation. Moreover, 400 racial values are a hurdle, and 500 racial values are a chasm. Ordinary Pokémon wizards cannot becoming a Pokémon that's too high level, Kurorido explained. After thinking for a while, Eminem asked, can Pokémon wizard mate with Pokémon? Kurorido, forget it. You think I didn't ask? What is spiritual fire? Eminem changed the subject. What do you think are the two natural systems of human beings? Kurorido asked a question that sounded familiar to Eminem. Superpowers and fighting? Eminem didn't know whether wizards had the same views as those with superpowers. That's right. In fact, most of your superpowers, the best of them, also have the potential to become wizards. Kurorido said in a what a pity tone. Eminem couldn't stand his tone of voice, as if wizards were superior to superpowers, and he was also a little curious, so he asked, I said, more than 900 years later, that deng from Hogwarts will old man Bullado, who is more powerful than Nazi. After a pause, Eminem suddenly remembered something and asked again, is there Hogwarts now? Have you been kicked out? Kurorido, I haven't taught you these kinds of magic yet. Kurorido reminded, who is better, Dumbledore or Nazism? Eminem immediately cut off the last 2 questions. This of course implies that Nazi is a trainer and wants to work together. Now, Dumbledore is still stronger. His spiritual fire is not only mixed with the fire of the Blaze Bird, but also blessed by the Elder Wand. Although Nazism has high potential, and if she goes her own way, she will be able to surpass Dumbledore in a short time. But Dumbledore is old, he may not have time to be surpassed. Crowley Rideau said with a plain expression. Saying very outrageous things. Well, Naz's talent is about to surpass that of Dumbledore, but Dumbledore doesn't have a few years to live, and it's really too late to fix it. Slim Shady, how long Dumbledore can live is not just a matter of age, right? Eminem remembered that Dumbledore did not die at the end of his life. Who knows? Crowley Rideau also looked unsure, and then continued nonchalantly. Spiritual fire, as I just said, Dumbledore is also very good at this. Generally speaking, in other words, it is the wizard's own mental power, which is expressed in the form of flames. It is hot and can burn, but in essence, according to your classification, it is a superpower attack. However, spiritual fire is also difficult to control. If it is used for attack, it is also called fire. If it is used for defense, it is called flame body protection. In theory, if it is used for attack, it's much simpler, but if you can't fully control it, it's also very dangerous to use. Fire Ashley. Note 1. Kuro Rideau looked at Eminem at this time, and then said, the flames of the Uchiha clan tend to be spiritual fire, and Uchiha Madara later integrated into the flames of the Ho-Oh. That's not dangerous. Eminem retorted instinctively. Crowley Rideau, ahem. Go on, Eminem. Also realized at this time that when he saw Kuro Rideau lighting a fire casually, he actually stimulated his own spiritual fire. This is regarded as stimulating his own mental power or superpower and does not require any help. The power of Pokémon, being able to master fire bodyguard, means that you have been able to stably master spiritual fire. The defensive side of the Uchiha clans, Susanoo, can also be regarded as a kind of fire bodyguard, but it's not exactly like a flame. Kuro Rideau continued. At this time, Crowley Rideau paused, and there was a look of appreciation on his face that he had not seen when he mentioned God Guard and Pokémon Wizard before. Then we will mention Horcrux. Although I don't like its founder, but he is indeed one of the greatest black magicians of this era. Based on what Eminem has learned during this period, Kuro Rideau thinks very highly of himself. To be able to separate this guy into a one shows how capable he is. But isn't this more dangerous than fire? Although Eminem has forgotten the name of the person who invented this magic, of course he will not forget that this is Voldemort's signature in the original work. Seeing that Kuro Rideau looked intoxicated at this time, Eminem looked at his nose worriedly. He is quite tall. What a pity point. As if he could see what Eminem was worried about, Kuro Rideau said calmly, I have studied the Horcrux carefully. And its application method is actually just that. Immortality? Haha, but splitting the soul is really a wonderful idea, Slim Shady. Just when Eminem felt that this guy's mental state was somewhat problematic, Crowley said with a smile, let me teach you this first. No, thank you. Please be sure to start with, all curses are ended. Eminem thinks it is more practical to hold on. As for the 6 types of magic, or the refining of the magic stone in magic effects, Kuro Rideau probably doesn't understand either. You are really a trainer. Kuro Rideau's tone was full of admiration. However, after getting along with each other for this period of time, Eminem understood that he was mocking himself, and now he was not sure how many wizard's honors he had. Senses fermenting their point. Indeed, all curses end is the most effective for trainers, while spiritual fire and Horcrux are the least useful, of course, and I believe there is a 7th core magic, that is the bond with Pokémon. Eminem said confidently. Kuro Rideau was non-committal about this. 7 days passed in the blink of an eye. During these few days, Crowley Rideau taught Eminem the ways to cast these 5 kinds of magic. Whether he could master it or not was up to Eminem himself. Originally, Eminem didn't want to learn anything about Horcruxes, but Kuro Rideau taught him anyway. Note 1. Needless to say, fire, flame protection, refers to Grindelwald's blue ring of fire. Chapter 646. Never trust dark wizards. In the blink of an eye, Eminem had stayed for a month 936 years ago. On this day, he finally left and came to the original site of the Scorched Tower again, early in the morning, without the need for Kuro Rideau to remind him. Eminem knew it was today because his head felt like it was getting windy again. After bidding farewell to Lakeside Village, Amu and Yuanzi still rode on the Little Halberd Ridge. Crowley Rideau used Parcel Tongue to call an Arbo monster, and the three of them went to the source of Time Ripple together. When passing by a hill that wasn't even a tower, Kuro Rideau wanted to go in. When Amu saw this, he frowned and said, huh, no, some of the time ripples are still here. The place where Time Ripple appeared was nearby, not inside the tower. Just like after 936 years, Eminem was transported without seeing Time Ripple. Without the influence of Time Ripple, the power of Celebi alone would not be able to make the entire person travel through time. Time Ripple hasn't fully exploded yet. If you're too close, you won't be able to hold on for a while longer, right? Let's wait until the time comes. Kuro Rideau took it as a matter of course. Said point after hearing what Kuro Rideau said, Eminem joined him for the time being and came to the tower to rest point. Although I don't know the principle, this tower or this hollow hill can really block the wind. Not only the wind of natural airflow, but also the wind of time ripples. Huh. Here is actually. Eminem felt that his head didn't hurt much after he came in. There must be something special here. After I finished dealing with the time ripple matter, I want to take a closer look here. Kuro Rideau said point. Hearing this, Eminem always felt that something was strange, but then Kuro Rideau looked at Eminem and said with a smile, if the research comes out, I will put the conclusion in the southwest corner of the underground floor. You can go back have a look. Ah, you sure it can be preserved for 1,000 years? Amu asked curiously. I can add a time magic to make it appear when it should appear. Kuro Rideau said thoughtfully, huh. Fortunately, I can take a rest here. Eminem said with a sigh of relief after his headache eased. Is there a possibility? If you don't have this function, then after 936, you will be able to detect time ripples in advance and you will not be able to travel at all? Kuro Rideau reminded very thoughtfully. Point Slim Shady. 2 hours passed in the blink of an eye, and Eminem felt again and again that it was almost time, but Kuro Rideau was still saying to wait. Point at first Eminem could still sit still, but gradually, why do I think you are acting weird today? Eminem looked at Kuro Rideau suspiciously. Hey, you're not the teacher who has doubted you for a month, are you? Kuro Rideau sounded surprised, but with a smile on his face. Point this expression, just like a month ago, when he wanted to name Eminem Tom Riddle. What on earth do you want to do? Eminem still couldn't guess, and he was fooled again. Teach you the last important knowledge. Kuro Rideau suddenly became serious. What? Eminem had a bad premonition. If one day you really want to get in touch with the wizarding world, you must remember. Kuro Rideau said, his original serious expression couldn't help but grin. Never believe in the dark wizard. Nonsense, Slim Shady. After Kuro Rideau finished speaking, he retreated from a gap in the tower, and at the same time, waved his wand and said, block it hard. Suddenly, the power of the rock system gathered together, and one after another, rock blockade, overlapped to seal all the surrounding exits. Because the surroundings suddenly darkened. Yuanzi exclaimed. Point. When Amu heard the sound, he quickly grabbed Yuanzi and at the same time ordered Zyology, concentrate your strength and break it. Although, I don't know, this is rock blockade that has been awakened several times. It seems to be a skill that completely blocks the passage. No, it is magic. Point. However, Amu believes that it is essentially just a skill, and it cannot be as powerful as Leoka's rock blockade, which directly drops several dragon statues. Sure enough, after Zyology made a giant sword attack, the giant rock that blocked the road was slightly shaken by the condensed power of the rock system. Amu, why don't we dig it out? Yuanzi asked after seeing this. No, the remaining structures here are filled with so many Pokémon that can dig holes. What's left after generations of digging must be the hardest parts. It's better to work hard here to get faster. Eminem said accurately. Judgment. Point. Kuro Rideau should also understand this. The reason why he came here was just to temporarily trap Eminem. As for the reason, Eminem doesn't know yet. He only knows that it must be related to Time Ripple. Could it be that he wants to snatch Time Ripple and is worried that Eminem will ruin the plan? Eminem felt that it was not that simple. Otherwise there should be a better way to lure him away. A month ago, Eminem had no idea that time ripples would appear at this time point, not even sure how many years ago it was. Now, wouldn't it be better to just trick yourself away? Shouldn't it be like now? It seems that he doesn't want to be unable to make it, but just wants to make it at the time he planned. Thanks to Zyojji's efforts, Amu and Yuanzi were finally able to come out 20 minutes later. After coming out, Eminem knew which way to go, although I don't know what Kurorido is doing. But, you can go back with the help of time ripple. This must be true. Eminem knew it before meeting Kurorido. This way. Amu gave the order, and Zyojji rushed over time. GGG. As soon as he approached the scene, Eminem heard the cry of Celebi point. It sounded a little anxious, even embarrassed, and there was also a laugh that didn't sound like a good person. Clorido, it doesn't seem to be the case. In Eminem's impression, that guy still cares about his image and would not smile so villainously. You'll be sitting on Zyojji for a while. Don't get down. Amu warned Yuanzi. Eminem is no longer ready to let Zyojji join the battle. At the same time, we cannot leave Yuanzi here, because Yuanzi also wants to go back. Who knows if we can borrow the rotation of time ripple here, so let Zyojji protect the garden. Soon Eminem saw a huge snake shadow wrapped in a space, and in it, a Celebi looked weak and pitiful. At the same time, a long-haired figure wearing a black wizard robe stood on the huge snake shadow. Although he felt something was strange, Eminem still jumped down from the little halberd spine. And while letting the little halberd spine dodge, he shouted, "Kurorido, stop it." Chapter 647 Hayabo. Chapter 645 Kurorido, stop it. Eminem shouted loudly and immediately saw the situation on the field clearly. I saw that Kurorido was standing on the head of a dragon Boruto at this time, and this dragon Boruto was not an ordinary Pokémon, an ordinary king, or a giant king. Judging from the size, it is obvious that this is a boss Pokémon. Of course, this Doran Boruto, which is hundreds of meters long and thicker than an ancient tree, is definitely not the usual size now. Instead, it uses Doran Boruto's ghost type characteristics to forcibly enlarge its body, so the body appears more half empty and half solid than normal, basically translucent. However, the range of this kind of expansion is usually 2 or 3 times, and no more than 5 times at most. It can be seen that its body size must have exceeded the normal value, and it is definitely the boss. At this time, after enlarging its body, the Doran Boruto became even larger, floating slightly and coiled in a space. Because the body was translucent, Eminem could see that Celebi was trapped inside. At the same time, billowing black smoke continued to emit from the wand of Kurorido and flowed towards Doran Boruto under him, making his body look more solid. Eminem glanced at it and discovered that Kurorido had changed his wand. It is completely different from the staff that Amu saw before, with the sun as the core and the moon wheel on the side. This is a staff with a 7-pointed magic array on the top. However, there was no time to think too much. Celebi seemed to have absorbed half of the time ripple at this time and was caught off guard. Although it was not completely trapped yet, the space for movement was already very small. When Eminem saw this, he didn't hesitate. The replacement card between his fingers flashed, and in an instant Celebi came outside, and Eminem fell into a dangerous place. Now that Leocat is always on guard, Eminem is not worried. Even if the opponent is really stronger than Xianadang with Thunder Feather, Eminem is not worried, because educate the soul. I saw Eminem shouting, and then stretched out his finger to point at the seemingly huge Doran Boruto that enveloped the surroundings. Immediately, the Doran Boruto twisted in pain, and then its body quickly shrunk. Although it was still 20 or 30 meters long in the end, it struggled to crawl in front of Eminem. Kurorido had already jumped down from above and looked at Eminem warily. "Who are you? What kind of magic is this?" Eminem is becoming more and more certain that the guy in front of him is not Kurorido at all, but for some reason, he has turned into Kurorido. Eminem suspects that this is a kind of magic or potion. For example, using the transformation of the magic monster on himself, or the Polyjuice potion. In the original work, Eminem, on the other hand, pretended to be Long Ocean, with an expression that was beyond dire. Of course, Eminem, this is not magic, it is just the effect of dragon ancestor. A dragon clan that is strong enough can indeed resist the orders of dragon ancestor, of course. In Leoka's words, this is caused by Eminem's lack of energy point. However, even the Great Heavenly King, or even the stronger dragon clan, cannot withstand the effect of dragon ancestor and actively harm Eminem point. Normally, the Great Heavenly King would retreat far away after feeling the sense of summons. The leader Doran Baruto in front of him could only struggle on the ground at this time, swinging his huge tail, and slowly moved toward. Then it squirmed and receded. Seeing how it can glare at Eminem fiercely, this boss is of a high rank. At this time, the fake crow seemed to realize something and shouted softly, "Pretend to be a ghost." Immediately, I saw him waving his magic wand and saying, "The soul is gone." A huge ghost type energy group condensed from his wand, transformed into a giant skeleton, and rushed towards Eminem. Eminem speculates this should be a magic variant of Shadow Ball. However, after approaching Eminem, he was immediately blocked by a wall of light with dragon scales faintly emerging. But what even the fake crow didn't notice was that Eminem actually shivered a little, feeling the unique coldness of the ghost power, the same as that of Zio-Shen, who had Thunder Feather and had already brewed the blessing of the weather, almost like thunder and lightning, slightly exceeding the absolute defense limit of the light wall used by Leoka to isolate the air. Huh. What a powerful armor spell. Fake Crow was also a little confused. It is true that Leoka directly set light wall on Amu. From the wizard's point of view, it is a spell without a spell or a wand, but for the truly auxiliary iron armor curse, most of it comes from the awakening of God. Leoka's light wall is also the same absolute defense when the opponent's attacks are insufficient. But then the fake Crow sneered, "But the iron armor curse is useless. The ghost is asking for his life." I saw the fake Crow waving his wand, and another ghost type energy shot out. This time, the magic looked very simple, without so many bells and whistles, but Eminem is also a little nervous, and even wants to try lazy donkey rolling, casting spells with a staff. Compared with assisting Pokémon in casting spells, it is lacking in aiming and reaction speed. In this regard, powerful wizards are far behind. It is stronger than ordinary people, but often not as good as Pokémon that can issue the same attack, so it is easier to avoid. But Leoka then spoke up to stop Eminem. I saw that this ghost system energy also dissipated after hitting Leoka's light wall ancestor. Eminem was relieved when he saw this. Eminem, who had learned common sense from Kurorido, knew that death is a series in the curse, and even among black magic, it is the most notorious one. Obvious, each type of energy can be killed, and its characteristics are ignore skill defense, no protection against damage, and instant death when the magic power is sufficient. It is a magic spell developed entirely for the purpose of killing the target. What? Fake Clo couldn't help but be stunned when he saw that the iron armor curse actually blocked his own death curse point, and Eminem had already reacted. In the final analysis, death curse is to combine the effects of ignore guard skills and kill with one hit. To awaken the skill, it will be easier to awaken the skill with one of the effects itself. For example, the ghost type stealth attack itself ignores the defend type of skills. But Eminem, this is not guard, this is essentially light wall plus reflective wall, so it will not be ignored. Fake Crow also became serious at this time, but his ferocious expression when he became serious did not look like the Kurorido that Eminem was familiar with, and his facial features gradually changed, especially obviously his black hair blew away in the wind, transforming into a fierce wizard who looked older and only had some hair around his ears. Now this ferocious appearance and his expression don't seem inconsistent. Hey Herbo, if you want to find Kurorido, you can leave now. Note 1. Halbo, the most famous black magician in history, who appears as a background character in the original work, and the first person to create Horcruxes, is said to be an ancient Greek, which is said to be far older than the founding era of Hogwarts. It's earlier, but both Helbo and Slytherin are described as one of the earliest Parseltongues, so they are set to the same period. Maybe Slytherin lived longer. Anyway, this is not a serious Harry Potter fanfic, so let's just set it up like this. Dang dang, there are only the last 3 days. Please vote for me. Please vote for me. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 648, Magical Battle, Dense Fog. I'm Hayabo. If you want to find Kurorido, you can leave now. Hayabo said coldly, pointing knew before that Eminem recognized the wrong person. He turned into Kurorido in order to get close to Celebi and make him let down his guard. Kurorido saved Celebi in the early years. For some reasons, Hayabo wanted to find Time Ripple. After learning about this, he asked Kurorido for his hair. For Hayabo did not want to use conspiracy methods to calculate a dark wizard like Kurorido, otherwise he might fall into a trap. Of course, Kurorido did not give him the hair, which was not beyond Hayabo's expectation. After all, the hair can be used together with the slime of the variety monster, the core of the onion fruit and other materials to make compound soup, potion, and may also be used as a medium for other curses. If Kurorido would give it to him directly, Hayabo would not dare to use it. In the end, Kurorido asked him for the method of making Horcrux and casting spells, and then prepared a bottle of Polyjuice potion with him, and Hayabo also successfully attacked Celebi. At least it was successful at first. However, a strange young wizard unexpectedly came and attacked him because he turned into Crow. Hayabo felt that he was extremely unlucky, but at the beginning, due to Hayabo's temperament, he just wanted to kill Amu first. Now he found out that this little known young wizard was so strong, so he wanted to stop fighting. When Celebi happily flew towards Eminem and circled several times. Apparently he recognized Eminem's Celebi. When Hayabo saw this, his face turned dark. Yes, then you can go, that guy Kurorido. At this time, Eminem was still looking around, not knowing where Kurorido was, but it's impossible for Eminem to leave. Regardless of whether he is Kurorido or not, Eminem is on the side of Celebi. When Hayabo heard this, he waved his wand directly without waiting for Eminem to finish speaking, and a burst of dark purple flame surged around him. At the same time, Hayabo also looked at the unstable Time Ripple on the side. He seemed to be the same. Came for this when Celebi's voice became urgent and he directly used predict the future. The superpower turned into hourly rabbis and they disappeared into the surrounding void as soon as they appeared. However, because of the injury he had just suffered, it seemed that there were still traces of the curse on his body. Celebi suddenly screamed and even fell from the air. Be careful. Eminem asked Celebi to step back while facing Hayabo's fire curse. Just by looking at the color, you can tell that it also contains the power of the ghost system. It seems that Hayabo has deep attainments in the ghost system, in addition to the superpower system that wizards are good at and being able to add the power of other systems to the use of. Spiritual fire is a symbol of mastering spiritual fire. This also means that he already knows fire well and is not simply releasing it in spite of. I saw dark purple flames condensed into fire beasts and ancient fire beasts with fire plus ghost biting towards Amu and Celebi one after another. Not only are they huge, but compared to the sluggishness of the real ancient fire beasts, these ancient fire beasts transformed by Hayabo's spiritual fire even in outline look ferocious and violent. All curses end. After Eminem shouted, he pushed forward, but it is said that all curses will end, but in fact, he is still using the dragon scale wall around his body to resist Hayabo's fierce fire. The ancient fire beasts made of flame smashed into pieces around Amu. This move is equivalent to a normal attack. In terms of power, it is not as powerful as a souls are scattered. It is just more durable, but light wall skills are better than hold skills in terms of durability, and it cannot shake Eminem at all. Defense. Hayabo Hayabu now feels that this young wizard is playing a trick on him. Aren't you still? Iron armor curse. Wait, is this really the iron armor curse? Suspicion flashed in Hayabu's eyes. Then Hayabu's cold expression became more ferocious. After a sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth, he saw that the fierce fire that could not shake Eminem dissipated, and Hayabu immediately opened his mouth and looked out from his not so tall posture. There was a cold and shuddering sound like a blade cutting through glass. After hearing this, Eminem felt uncomfortable all over, but the sound still penetrated his ears. Song of Death. Leoka's voice passed into Eminem's mind. Is your light wall blocking it? Eminem asked quickly. It's not that I didn't block it, it's that I didn't have to block it. It's a power that only the weak are afraid of. Slim Shady. Although Leoka went back to make up for it, Eminem still extracted the key point. He didn't block it, or in other words, facing this move, Leoka's wall of light was useless. After all, neither light wall nor reflection wall can block transformation skills. It's just that when no one is fighting, they use change skills on the trainer in an extravagant manner. After all, the trainer's own combat effectiveness is originally negligible. Point at this time, Hayabu realized that Eminem's protective spell did not seem to be of the protective type, and immediately used the Song of Destruction. Although Hayabu has stopped now, you can still hear the weird sound in your ears. The effect of Song of Destruction will be lurking in Eminem's spirit. After being hit, you must either concentrate completely and resolve the effect of Song of Destruction that you are hit with first, or completely defeat the opponent, or at least repel the opponent, or run away by yourself, keeping the caster at a certain distance from you. Point otherwise, Song of Destruction will burst out after lying dormant for a period of time. The power is basically instant kill at the same level, with the same combat power. If you are hit by Song of Destruction, you will often be in a hurry. Point for ordinary Pokémon, it might just be fainting after losing a battle. But the Dark Wizard's Song of Destruction can definitely kill people directly. Fuck your face, Eminem quickly urged Leoka to give him a break, and at the same time, shouted and pointed at Hayabu. Hayabu was also puzzled. The strength of this young dark wizard was very strange. Like now, he didn't feel the fluctuation of his magic power at all, and even felt that he didn't use magic at all. But at the next moment, a huge arm whipped out of the void. Overlapping dragon scales and sharpened ferocious dragon claws roared and hit like a hill. Flame. Guard. Poof. Chapter 649. The Fisherman's Benefit. Kaoparis's arm is not only huge, but also densely covered with dragon scales. At the same time, the dragon's claws are also ferocious and sharp. If only one arm is exposed, it is impossible to tell what the relationship between Leoka and Koalang is. When the boss Pokémon becomes huge, it is also prone to some phenomena that are very different from other individuals. However, just as other bosses are not as big as the old Pokémon, the changes are not as obvious as the old Pokémon. Point at this time, Leoka slapped it down with a claw, and Hayabu immediately used Flame Protection. Only the dark purple flames, with Hayabu as the center, were about to form a circle, and while burning fiercely, they enveloped Hayabu. But when this claw came down, in the face of the absolute power gap, the fire bodyguard was directly shot away, and the Hayabu inside was also shot away. However, Hayabu, as a dark wizard, has too much combat experience. As soon as the fire bodyguard broke, he also added an iron armor curse to himself, that is, guard. Even so, Hayabu felt like stars were shooting out of his eyes and he vomited blood from his mouth. While climbing up with difficulty. Oops. Amu suddenly discovered that the direction where Hayabu was shot was actually the direction where Yuanzi and Zyojiji were hiding, and he couldn't help but secretly thought something was wrong. Not to mention that Zyojiji is only a king level Jijiji. In front of Hayabu, the king level looks a little weak, pitiful, and helpless. More importantly, as a king level wild Pokémon, even in a life or death situation, it will not execute the orders of Dragon Ancestor that threaten its life. However, the little halberd spine is quite interesting. At this time, it still carries a garden along with it, and suddenly spurts out high pressure cold air. It's not to attack, but to take advantage of the reaction forced to retreat. Spirosaurus is the fastest when sprinting backwards. Heavy tentacles. Hayabu just got up and immediately covered his chest while grinning and waving his staff in the direction where Styrosaurus sprinted away. Point as a dark wizard. There is no psychological burden at all on attacking the opponent's female companion. Leoka's arm disappeared after one blow, and Eminem had already reacted at this time and activated. Replacement card. Again, I saw a strange flash of light. The halberd spine followed Amu's swap sight and suddenly came to the position where Amu was just now, and Amu appeared in front of Yuanzi. Point. If you directly change the garden, it is equivalent to selling the small Gigi. Of course, you have to change the small Gigi. As for the garden, Eminem is blocking the front. At the same time, Hayabu's staff now stretched out countless tentacles condensed from dark purple energy. It was obviously just energy condensation, but it seemed that the texture really had a wet feeling. Eminem also switched over in time just before the tentacles stretched out, and then faced the attack of these tentacles, or in other words, bundles. Be careful. At this time, Yuanzi also realized that the person blocking him had turned into Eminem. Reassurance briefly flashed across the originally flustered face, but soon became even more flustered. Fortunately, these energy tentacles did not shake the dragon scale wall around Amu. But well. Eminem suddenly groaned. Yuanzi, who was clinging to Amu's back, quickly asked, "What's wrong? What happened?" Eminem also wanted to ask, and he asked Leoka. The attack was blocked, but Eminem still felt numb under the tentacle. Tongue licking. Leoka said concisely and comprehensively. It's not that Leoka wants to lick someone, but he tells Eminem that this move of heavy tentacles evolved from the ghost type. Tongue licking. It's better to say it's tentacles than tongues. Tongue lick is very weak in attack, but it will put the target into paralysis. Paralysis in the Pokémon world is a proper noun, which refers to the weakening and slowing down of mental signals transmitted by the body. It is usually an effect of the electric type, but it is not just the effect of the electric type. The general type, Tarzan overwhelm, heavy pressure can also cause paralysis, and tongue licking can also cause cold numbness through ghost power to achieve paralysis. Leoka's wall of light has a better protective effect against direct attacks. Now that the paralysis effect has leaked out a little bit, Eminem was hit on the spot. Give him another try, Amu said angrily. If this continues, Eminem may also be in danger. It is better to fight against the serious damage of the old card and kill this dark wizard. Eminem also vaguely remembered at this time that this head and shoulders seemed to be the person who invented the Horcrux. No need to. Leoka seemed to have discovered something. Without waiting for Amu to ask, he saw many Arabis formed from super energy rushing out of the void around Hayabu, and then launched a series of attacks on it. It is a future prediction that will be launched before, at a certain moment in the future, a predictive attack will be launched after a lot of hammering. Not only was Hayabu's magic interrupted, he even exploded his wand in order to defend himself. Eminem also learned some wand making skills from Crowrido before, and understood that some wands have life-saving means. This is not a wizard, but very fantasy. Seeing that Hayabu's wand exploded, Eminem was about to leave the rest to chase the bad guys. However, Hayabu, as a veteran dark wizard and even a signature dark wizard, is naturally very good at escaping. Without his wand, he would immediately escape, transformed into a Doran Baruto, twisted his body and disappeared. Being able to transform into a quasi-god, for ordinary wizards, is already the pinnacle of Pokémon wizard, but for Hayabu, it is not considered a high attack method, and he only uses it to escape. As a result, Eminem can't use normal means to pursue him. As for letting Leoka do it for a while, is it worth it? Just now, Eminem asked Leoka to take action, because he was afraid that he would attack him again after he recovered. If it were an enemy of this strength 1,000 years later, Eminem would not be stingy even with Jin. But, this was 936 years ago. Why compete with him? Besides, as the creator of Horcrux, if his body is destroyed, he may not die. But just then, the stars claimed their lives. Sleepy, too. Magics hit Hayabu and Amu respectively. The former was a ray of starlight. After hitting it, Hayabo's eyes widened instantly, and then his whole body was shattered. It was not even a bloody smash, but a deeper one, shattered and disappeared in a starlight. It is the death curse that evolved from the fairy type moves after the latter hit Eminem. Eminem's mind went numb for a while. Even with the protection of Leoka's light wall, the little effect that seeped in made Eminem drowsy. While he was half asleep, he saw that it was Kurorido, the bastard, walking over leisurely with the same smile as usual on his face. As expected, this old Yunbi was around just now, probably waiting to lose both sides at the same time. Eminem heard the noise formed by Song of Destruction in his mind, which turned into Hayabo's roar and threat, while Kurorido walked towards him at this time, seeming to be saying what? He handed something to Yuanzi, but he couldn't hear it anymore. Immediately, Eminem fell asleep uncontrollably, because he was just falling asleep instead of fainting due to overdraft. Leoka could appear at any time, and Eminem wasn't too worried about him picking up his corpse. Chapter 650 Traveling Again. Kurorido. And, you damn boy, you are all going to die. All will die. I will return. After Hayabo was directly killed by Kurorido using Death Curse, the invisible soul roared, especially the voice of Song of Destruction, still remained in Eminem's mind, and now it turned into a roar. Sure enough, Hayabo's Horcrux has been made. Even if his body is destroyed now, it will not kill him completely. But Hayabo is also filled with hatred now. After all, although the Horcrux can keep him alive, it will be very uncomfortable until he finds a body that can be fully resurrected. At the same time, just when Eminem was about to fall asleep, Kurorido came over and applied a sleeping curse to Celebi, who was in poor condition. And when he approached Amu, under Yuan's guarded eyes, he raised his hands and said, "My name is Kurorido, a diligent and studious wizard. As you can see, I don't have any ill intentions, and I will treat my friend Mr. Eminem, send him back to the future," Kurorido said and bowed. Huh. Yuanzi looked puzzled. However, Kurorido did not look at her, but stared in the direction of Eminem. Kurorido was vaguely aware of the existence of Cheoparis. Although he did not clearly and correctly understand what Cheoparis was, he could understand some of Cheoparis' state and power. Sure enough, after seeing that Kurorido had no other behavior, Cheoparis did not take any forceful action. As for what Kurorido was going to do next, it had nothing to do with Leoka. As long as he sent Amu back. Kurorido also breathed a sigh of relief, and looked at Yuanzi with a smile on his face. Yuanzi, who was supporting Eminem, couldn't help but be startled. "Don't worry, Miss Sonoko, I'm friends with Mr. Amu, aren't we? Please help me give this to Mr. Amu after trouble. He will know what it is for," Kurorido said, and handed over to Mr. Amu. The Dialga stone that Eminem had seen was given to Sonoko. Just as Sonoko was hesitating, Kurorido said, "Now, I'm going to send you to the future. Time flies." I saw Kurorido waving his magic wand and extracting part of the power of Time Ripple to form a time tide involving both Eminem and Sonoko. Then Kurorido had enough time to absorb the Time Ripple, and after he absorbed the Time Ripple, the surrounding area was also flooded with vitality, and then he sent Celebi, who quickly weakened, to in a tower that is not yet a tower. That's right. What Kurorido said before was la. After his plan succeeds, Celebi will not sleep for 200 to 300 years, but with the help of Dialga Stone, he will still sleep for 200 to 300 years. It's not even a deal at all. Dialga Stone can only slightly reduce Celebi's losses. He has never thought about trade. For this reason, he first used deceptive lies to establish some relations with Celebi in advance, and then made Hayabo, who also coveted Time Ripple, learn about this matter, and learn about it. A rare and powerful Time Ripple will appear here and now. Then in the transaction between the two parties, the two dark wizards naturally had reservations. Kurorido took advantage of Hayabo, because he saw that there would be unmatched power and interference in the hunt for Time Ripple. If he acted normally, it would not go smoothly. Hayabo didn't even know that Kurorido had known about this Time Ripple, for a long time and thought he had hidden it from him. Point of course, as a dark wizard, Hayabu was also full of lies, and the method he gave Kurorido to make the Horcrux was also problematic. Point he did understand that Kurorido would definitely find the problem afterwards. But he didn't care. After all, as a dark wizard, wouldn't it be too low of status to honestly give the other party the items he traded? So today's scene happened. Taking advantage of the fact that both sides were losing, Kurorido directly used the fairy type death spell to kill Hayabu. It didn't take a day or two for Kurorido to dislike him. Point if they were to fight head on, Kurorido thought that he and her bow were only 50-50 apart and no one could do anything to the other. It would be difficult for them to deal with even the stronger Celebi. Point Hayabu took advantage of the sneak attack, but now Kurorido was able to take advantage of it and kill Hayabu's body with a fairy type death curse and restrain Celebi with a hypnotic curse. It was simply make money with blood, but Kurorido also discovered that this Horcrux is really useful and Hayabu doesn't seem to be completely dead. Kurorido didn't really want to make a Horcrux. He just learned from a step in the production of a Horcrux. Eminem woke up not long after and found that he was in a stone room. He was at a loss for a while, then suddenly remembered what happened before and immediately sat up. Clorido, get out of here. Eminem shouted angrily. Point at this moment, Yuanzi walked in a hurry. When he saw Eminem, he said in surprise, are you awake? Eminem noticed that Yuanzi's clothes were replaced by another style that she had never seen before. They looked very quaint, and at the same time they were different from what they had seen before, and the material was much better. Yuanzi, are you okay? Amu asked quickly. It's okay, we just crossed over, and I saw Tomoyo and Sakura. Sonoko said quickly. Time travel? Amu was stunned when he heard this. Seeing this, Sonoko quickly explained. After you fainted, Kurorido activated the time ripple and pulled us in. I thought I could go back directly, but it seems that only more than 200 years have passed. Tomoyo and Sakura are also here. It's only been half a month since they traveled through time, so it's still here. Amu looked around, vaguely guessing. Yes, it's burned here. No, it's the bell tower. But the bell hasn't been transported up yet. Sonoko said. At this time point Eminem walked to the window and looked outside and found that he should be in a room on the 3rd floor. Looking outside, he saw lush green surroundings. Although it was also winter, not only was it full of life, but the temperature was also high. It can be much warmer. Is this Celebi, or has he absorbed time ripple? Upon seeing this, Amu breathed a sigh of relief. Point, but Sonoko said worriedly at this time, no, there shouldn't be. Kurorido also hypnotized Celebi at that time, and Tomoyo and Sakura said that there is. Just then, Tomoyo and Sakura walked in. Amu, you are indeed awake. Sakura came in, looking relieved. Point, although Tomoyo didn't show off, he also relaxed a lot. What? Are you two? Eminem discovered that Tomoyo and Sakura had also changed their clothes at this time, and they were very fancy, especially Tomoyo. Tomoyo looked embarrassed for a while by Eminem. Before she could speak, Sakura said with an admiring tone, Tomoyo is very powerful. In just a few words, people here can believe that we are Celebi's envoys. Slim Shady, so you are just fooling the ancient people. Hearing this, Tomoyo embarrassedly explained, passing the blame. No, it's mainly about Sakura's time card then. Tomoyo also said worriedly, but I'm afraid I can't pretend for too long. Sakura and I discovered that there is really a Celebi sleeping here, and the people here don't know why. They are sure that in the past few days, that one Celebi will wake up, but, dang. Please give me a monthly pass. Please give me a monthly pass. It's the last 2 days. No need to keep the monthly pass. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.